mean, I think our first day's games went pretty well. I think we saw a lot towards the second half, but the first two were really strong, and overall it wasn't too bad.
I feel like the tournament was, I would say, as expected. I think generally speaking, there are a lot of strong names in the pool, so I thought the games were going to be kind of hard, and I definitely think that towards the end, especially game 4, I think the lobby was super close in terms of HP, so I would say like it was definitely on par, if not a bit harder. People are definitely expecting me not to perform as well, because I haven't like really performed any tournaments or done any tournaments prior, but yeah, I would say pressure-wise, I'm kind of like just chilling. The thing with duo tournaments, you have to communicate every round, I would say, like, oh, I beat this person, I got this item, or like I got this unit, look at my board, and then from there you kind of like play around it. So we definitely did that a lot during the tourney as well, so it's just a lot of constant like talking. Also, like, one of the big thing is keeping streak, right? Sometimes you don't actually want to slam your items immediately, or you can save health, things like that, which is definitely something you don't have to worry about if you're playing like a free for all. Because if it's just you on your own, you kind of want, if you're win streaking, you kind of want to just do as much damage as possible to all of the other players, right? So I heard Emily and Kiyun didn't put us in top 10 of their tier list, or I guess we weren't included at all. But I actually think we're a stronger team than them. But I also think that a lot of the big name players kind of have a skewed idea of what the strong players are in the region. And I think in general, they're kind of lacking a lot of information. Yeah, I don't know. People just tend to, I feel like people tend to forget whenever I'm in a tournament. So, it is what it is. I thought it was kind of funny watching Preciven carry Soju for the first couple of games, so that was hilarious.
Hello and welcome everybody to Giant Slayer Series Season 3 presented by Wisdom. I am DoA. With me as always, or most of the time anyway, is Frodan, back again today. How was your TFT weekend, man?
It was great, DoA. I got to play lots of games. I was streaming and trying to climb back to top of Grandmasters, but it was a little bit of a struggle. But I feel like in the process, I learned a lot. I think the patch for set 5.5 is specifically in 11.16 has actually been pretty good. I think outside of like the Tristana stuff that is clearly going to get nerfed, and that B patch, as Mortdog announced earlier today, I think it's really interesting, and strategies are wide open. And when you add the layer of 2v2, it's going to be really interesting to see what people are going to do in week number 2.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw that interview, and there was a talk of communication every single turn between teammates. And I think the teams that are doing that are definitely going to do better than the teams that aren't doing it. And over the course of the weeks, we're going to be able to kind of figure out who's got the better team synergy. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's take a look at the format for the tournament in case you're just joining us, in case you missed last week. It is a 2v2v2v2 tournament. So we've got 32 players, 16 teams in total, 2 lobbies going at the same time, and basically what we're going to do is over the course of a few weeks we are going to narrow it down to just 4 teams, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you get first place, you earn an extra $50 for your team as well, so a lot to play for just game to game, even though the main goal is to have a lot of points by the end of it.
Yeah, that's right. There are some mini objectives for people to play through, and it's not, of course, just the points, but the extra cash. But there's also bragging rights on the line. If you take a look at the player list, you can see some people chose to bring really top competitors. People look at Ramblin' Robin, for example, at the very bottom of the 3rd column. Robin Songs and Ramblin' people are pegging as the #1 team. Another really powerful team over to the top right is Rat Owl, featuring Invictus Games' Noob Owl and DQA. There's also some people who brought their friends, like Soju and Preciven, who've kind of been teaming up for Twitch Rivals tournaments, Kiyun and Emily Wang. And there's actually some rivalry and some side bets on the line of who can do better. So I enjoyed that a lot. But, can anyone overcome the power of friendship through the Mega Furrets, Buzzy Boo and Jirachi, who absolutely crushed week 1?
Yeah, it's kind of shocking, actually. As we take a look at the teams for today and tomorrow, you can see the Mega Furrets are playing tomorrow, so we won't see them in today's games, but they're definitely worth mentioning because they've got 54 points right now overall. That's a whopping 7 points ahead of the second place team, so after 1 week, they are absolutely crushing it, but it's a multi-week tournament, right? So you got to keep that level of performance up, and that's a level of performance that I think is tough to reach, you know, in a number of tournaments for pros that learn week to week. So I'm really eager to see how they're going to do today. But today, as you can see, we've got a good amount of players that are worth watching in our various lobbies. We're going to be kind of shifting back and forth between lobbies as the day goes on, and we'll kind of let you know what happened to the lobby that we don't catch on stream. And on top of that, a lot of these players, if not all of them, are streaming too. So if there's a specific perspective you want to keep an eye on, you can go and find that as well. But a lot of good players to watch today for sure.
Yeah, very much so. And, you know, I think that what makes it really interesting is the teammate in the lobby, but it's also interesting to follow along. As you can see at the very bottom, there's a ticker that says A1 8th place. You might be wondering what that is if it's the first time you've seen it. It's fantasytft.com. In Lobby A, game number 1, there's a competition of who is going to go 8th place in that lobby, as well as another separate competition of who's getting 1st place. And you know me, I love playing a who is going 8th place lobby. That is so fun. I've already bet all in on Solus to start things off.
Oh, man.
That's only because I don't want Solus to get cursed, and I have a really bad habit of picking whoever goes 8th. So hopefully that doesn't exactly work out.
It's the reverse caster curse, right? You're trying to use your powers for good, where usually, you know, there's just wild, they're chaotic. We don't really know what's going to happen. But, you know, best of luck to Solus. You know, you've been either cursed or blessed, depending on the day. Hard to say. But we've got a great prize pool as well for this tournament. Thanks to Riot Ball Street for kicking in some for that as well. So honestly, as far as TFT tournaments goes, a good amount on the line here. Pretty cool.
Very much so. 3,000 for 1st place, 2,000 for 2nd. I think the pros were pretty pleasantly surprised, thinking like, hey, we don't actually get much money for competing in TFT right now, but it's great that Wisdom put up, you know, some money, and so did Riot Games as well. And slowly but surely, you know, I kind of feel like right now, TFT as a competitive scene, as an esport, is kind of like in the middle of stage 1. We're kind of like getting our drops, seeing what resources we can pull together. And things are, you know, at the very beginning, people are like, oh, I'm not sure. It's like a 2 gold drop. How much am I going to get? I feel like, you know, slowly but surely we're piecing together a very nice competitive scene in North America. And, you know, putting forth a nice prize pool with higher stakes is a great way to start things.
Yeah, 100%. Like, this is an esport being built how esports should be built. Grassroots, slowly with steady growth rather than, you know, just trying to force it or something crazy like that, right? So I think TFT has a good trajectory, and this tournament will continue to prove that because it's a great game to watch as well. On top of that, we talked about the prize pool as well, but Ball Street, who is one of our sponsors, has given away a lot on Fantasy TFT. They've awarded over $500 of digital tickets during contests so far, 100 rare little legend eggs, so there's a lot to go and win if you do it. And it is kind of fun to play, too, because it's very dynamic. It's something that you're going to want to keep your eye on the entire time the game is going, right? Because who looks like they're going to get first is going to shift pretty wildly from round to round. So definitely keep an eye on that. We also have predictions to be made on fantasytft.com. These 2 questions. Who will win Lobby A Game 1 and who will finish 8th in Lobby A Game 1? Frodan mentioned that a little bit earlier, but those are the 2 themes for the lobbies that are available right now.
That's right. So make sure you log in and get your chance. Last week, I won 3 tickets because I don't really need to pay full attention to farm all of you noobs on Ball Street app. You know, y'all think you know TFT, but maybe not as good as me.
Gauntlet
I'm
is
just joking.
thrown.
I'm just messing. I actually
He's not joking.
high-rolled.
You mean every word, don't you?
I actually high rolled like crazy. I actually picked HJW to win a lobby. I was just like, I was gonna all in. And they ended up winning the lobby, and so I ended up top 3 or something like that.
One of our 3 players from last week that won 2 lobbies in their 4 games, which is really impressive. The other one was Buzzy Boo, and I'm trying to remember who the third one was. But we had 3 players that got 2 first, which is pretty amazing out of 4 games. So kind of curious to see what the performances will be like this week, because the game changes rapidly. And as I was going back and looking through all of the different player profiles coming into today, one of the things that just amazed me was that there's a lot of boards that did well, as in getting a top 4. I think you can consider that doing well, that didn't really have a traditional quote-unquote comp as you would, you know, imagine it, right? It was a lot of just strong stuff tied together. There was a little bit of that, just get a lot of different forecasts, and that's going to be a top 4 board in a lot of cases, creeping back into the meta a little bit. So I agree with what you said earlier, where the meta seems more open now than it has in a long time. Tristana reroll being the exception, where it's like clearly the best comp. We know it's getting nerfed already. Nothing more needs to be said there. But I do think aside from that, there's a lot of different things you can play to get a top 4, and how you get there and what it looks like at the end varies wildly depending on the lobby too.
All right, well, I believe game number 1 is ready here for week 2 of the Giant Slayer series. We're going to hop on board with DQA with already unusual carousel. You mentioned it. It is the tier glove with a random couple of components. In this case, it's a vest and a cloak, which means there's no inherently strong AD items, attack damage items, because usually you look for the bows and the swords in that case. Glove can be a good support item. It's quite flexible in that case. But I do wonder how many people are just going to take those tiers and say, hey, I'm going to play like an AP tree composition.
All right, well, there's a Tristana already. The ping's coming in.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm selling my DQA stocks. I'm selling my DQA stocks. He's not going 8th. Or will he? So this is part of what makes it really interesting dynamic, right? We had some players who are playing reroll Tristana, but last week, when that happened, a player actually did end up taking 8th because Jirachi contested them and got 7th, but that was very deliberate. They said, hey, I want to grief the other Tristana reroll player. So there's more to it, right? If other people are trying to go for it, or more specifically, people are trying to meta the tournament itself, you can't just assume that because a player gets a Tristana early and they're going to commit to a Tristana reroll that they're going to actually be able to claim a top 4.
Yeah, the Buzzy Boo Jirachi strategy was actually really interesting when we were talking to them about it in the interview after that day of games was over, because Jirachi said that they just believed that Buzzy Boo was just going to be the better player, and so they wanted to take the role of just kind of like griefing and holding back the other players to support Buzzy Boo, you know? Which is interesting. You don't really see players in team situations commit so hard to that kind of thing, so I thought that was neat to see. Selling up to 10 gold is DQA. Wow, he finds the MF as well. Oh boy.
Yeah, so Misfortune largely has replaced the Senna version because you're going to want to play Thresh, and it gives you stronger rolls at 6 in particular. People that used to reroll for level 5, right, where you pick a Poppy 3 and all these other units that you don't really need, that's when you usually play the Senna, but it's kind of rare unless you want to also hedge your bets by rerolling Kled. But it's not super common for people to do that. DQA letting out a really excited yawn. Looks like he's trying to get his bearings up. Also, school is starting soon. You know, some people start school this week. So, you know, for some young guns, it's going to be hard to balance both. Also, as well as win this fight. Broccoli level 4, very strong. Starting off with a 2-star Poppy and those Sentinels.
Yeah, that'll definitely help out. That just gives you so much survivability. Combined with like the Rakan as well, you've got the healing. Obviously, Aurelia is going to survive forever. You got the Riven in there. So pretty insane board. I don't think DQA is too worried about it. Obviously, he's going to be leveling a little bit slower anyway, so you're probably going to be taking a couple losses early on in the game. Let's go check out Raditz's board right now. 2 Brawler, 2 Legionnaire. Decided to slam the blue buff after he got another tier. Opportunity for a locket there, but when you look at this board, you're kind of thinking, all right, well, I hope I get a brand so I can maybe go a bomb. What are you thinking, Frodan?
Yeah, totally. I think when you see this setup with 2 out of 3 Abomination, you don't have the brand, but you have the blue buff. This seems like Ray is going to go for an AP tree, which is quite interesting considering that Raditz is his claim to fame this set in particular for Dawn of Heroes set 5.5 has been his mastery of the attack damage tree, where he's able to flex very comfortably between Aphelios back when Lucian was much more prominent a few patches ago, Lucian. And of course, like Jax and Draven and Akshan if needed. So I want to see how well he can navigate through this, because he told me himself back when we were actually watch partying last week. He's like, Frodan, I don't know anything about the AP tree. Can you like talk a little bit about this? And then we were watching the AD tree. He had like nonstop sentences and really insightful paragraphs to cite to us and talk about. So I am interested to see how well Ray is going to perform in particular.
I think it's a good idea right now to be more of a specialist in TFT. Again, like we mentioned earlier, the meta just feels so open that it's harder to play flex now, I think, than it's been in the past to a certain extent. And so being more of a specialist and having like 2, 3, 4 comps that you really feel comfortable on and can pivot between each game, I think has become more valuable recently. Finds a second Dawnbringer, and yeah, I think it's fine to slam that blue buff on the Kha'Zix for a little while. Kha'Zix 2 is pretty amazing early on. Kha'Zix 1 is okay, but at least you're going to be getting a few more casts with that. Now, Raditz last week ended up going 7-4-3-4, so pretty good day overall. 3 top 4s. Ended up doing pretty well with Jax. There was an interesting game where he had 2 Lucian 2s, and then there was a Nightbringer of Felios game. So a decent variety, but like you had mentioned, Frodan, definitely trending more towards the AD tree.
It's a really interesting set of decisions that was actually made here from Ray. He decided to actually sell an entire 2-star unit, and a lot of players will tell you that tempo is really important, but this is a nod to a couple things. One, Ray doesn't have a super good holder of these items. Like, Vlad is okay, but he really wanted to make gold, and he's not pre-leveling, and he wasn't on a win streak anyways. And also by losing, he improves his pick priority to maybe even be able to get the proper item that he's looking for. Morello is the first thing I'm thinking about, so hovering over that vest would be great, but now he doesn't have it. Maybe he ends up just taking the brand, so that way he has the brand to go and slam this blue buff. And even if you don't get the ideal best in slot items, which is blue buff, Morello, and Guardian Angel, it's still totally fine to give 2 out of 3 and just start prioritizing other items.
Yeah, for sure. The glove, I guess, is like slightly awkward on it, but you can always move it around later on if you find another brand. You can always rebuild it, theoretically. But for now, it's just nice to get Abomination in there.
Yeah. I will say that another thing to consider, and this is exactly what I was going to talk about, which was
that's fine.
To slam Joe Gauntlet. Yeah. And believe it or not, and I know that I might get a little bit of flack for this. I like the no level here, by the way, from Raditz, so we can make 20. But believe it or not, I would not be surprised to see Raditz play Karma in this lobby, because Karma has actually slowly but surely made her way back into the metagame. Yeah, it's not necessarily the best build, but it's viable.
I mean, I was watching some streams over the weekend, and I had heard a couple pros talking about that, but it seemed very divisive. Like you said, you might get flamed a little bit for that, because I watched one stream and the pros like, oh yeah, Karma's dead, still unplayable. Another stream, players were starting to be like, all right, well, maybe Karma is an option, but I didn't see any of them actually try it. They were only talking about it. So I'd love to see Raditz actually give it a shot. We're going to check out Solus for now, and finally taking a little bit of damage here. His HP has been pretty healthy as he's gotten a little bit of a Cannoneer board started here. But looks like items that you can definitely move over to someone else a little bit later. Although, I was saying earlier today when we were checking out some games that I think Senna 2 might be like the strongest like stage 2 unit. What do you think? Would you agree with that?
I would not agree with it. I would not agree, but I also know where you're coming from, because I've seen her perform extremely well under the circumstances. I would say that the best 1-cost 2-star unit is Olaf, just because of how dominant he is in stage 2, because fights tend to go the distance. But, you know, they all kind of intertwine, right? You want Senna, like, because of Irelia and Olaf, and, you know, it's very cheap and efficient. So they all kind of, like, work with each other. Like, Senna and Olaf and Irelia all work really well. There's also an argument for other really powerful early game stage 2 carries like Kled, who's like surprisingly really good. So I think there's definitely, like, Senna's definitely one of the more reliable ones. Udyr is also not bad too. So I feel like all these units are just really high quality. So I'm not upset if I find a Senna 2 really.
I think everyone who has a favorite has some level of confirmation bias attached to it from the games they play, the games they've seen and all that as well. So I have to, anyone who speaks about that has to admit to that too, and I definitely do. Solus, for sure. Doing a little bit of scouting here as well as we get ready for Krugs. And I think one of the important things to scout for in the lobby right now with that tier start for a lot of these players is, you know, who ended up getting the items that's going to enable the AD tree, you know? Because understanding the AD versus AP makeup of the lobby is going to be pretty crucial going into stage 3.
Yeah, and because the entire lobby is biased towards AP due to the fact that everyone started tiers, look at this!
Man.
Solus looked like he was setting up for like a potential pivot into like Vel'Koz, and he just keeps getting more tiers and rods. I know this sounds kind of absurd, right? Like, he's playing like the Cannoneers, he had a Yasuo, maybe he was thinking about Yasuo if he just got a little bit of bows, and I think some other lower level players would probably think like, oh yeah, 2 fights ago was probably a Yasuo angle if you just found 1 Rune into Hurricane. But in reality, we've been seeing a lot of players from this spot pivot into Vel'Koz as long as they have the Redeemias to back it up. And so we'll see whether or not Solus ends up doing that. For now, we're going to hop on board with Kurum X from Team Pago. Kurum, his board is looking pretty weak right now, but thankfully he's going up against another weak player in Nubel, who is leaning more towards the Assassin tree. I love Assassins. I think North America is underplaying Assassins a lot, and we saw it perform super well in the EU finals over the weekend. where Balotelli from Italy was actually crushing day one. Balotelli didn't qualify for Worlds Finals, so a little sad. But the fact that he even got to the table, almost one-tricking Assassins exclusively, shows off the power of this composition. But both Kurum and Nubal are in a state where they're not super comfortable with where their board state and strength is.
Not at the moment. Maybe an option for a level 6 here. It certainly seems like he's kind of trending for the moment anyway, a little bit towards the Nightbringers, kind of waiting to see if... Oh, okay. Ooh, Nidalee too. I mean, that's a huge unit to hit early on. Like, that's going to definitely stabilize you. Or not definitely, but most likely stabilize you a little bit. Gets Dawnbringer in there with the Riven. Still maintains 3 Skirmishers. So, yeah, this is just a really good mix of synergies. And then a strong carry unit to back you up with. The Titans is pretty nice on Nidalee because she does get that attack speed now. So she'll be able to stack it in a lot of rounds. And, yeah, we'll see how it does. But I think this might be kind of the way out of the bottom of the top 4 for Stage 3 anyway.
Totally. Riven / Nidalee are very reliable Stage 3 carries if you can 2-star them, so this is huge. And the one thing about it is Kurum's front line is pretty weak, but it doesn't matter because the quality of his units are so high that he can just go ahead and benefit from that. Holding on to extra Nidalees, which I don't agree with, and he ends up selling it back. Because the reason why is I think a lot of people in this position would think, oh, maybe I should just reroll Nidalee and consequently Riven. But I think that part of the problem is that we've identified as a community that Nidalee falls off a lot towards the end stage of the game unless you like really have a strong carry like Riven with her. So in this situation, Kurum's probably starting to think, what is my best setup for Akshan and potentially even Aphelios?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to be the end game that he's ideally targeting, but it feels so far away because look at him. He's playing like Kled 2 with no items to try to stabilize. And it's reasonable. Like I think Kurum's done a commendable job to try to even have a stable board, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him lose a couple fights here and there.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I think this has been talked about recently too, is the term stabilizing doesn't necessarily mean that you're winning rounds. It just means that you're not losing HP heavily, right? It means that you're starting to either win rounds or take, good losses at least. And that was a little bit of a rough loss, but in general, he's going to be able to kill a couple more units than he would have otherwise with that Nidalee. So it's a step in the right direction anyway, as we shift over to Broccoli's perspective. Oh, I was trying to remember who the third person to take 2 firsts was. It was actually Kurum X. I looked it up. So he was our third player to get the 2 firsts last week. But let's check out Broccoli.
Yeah, Broccoli's POV, playing some early Forgottens. And if you're able to get the early Forgottens right now, it's actually the strongest it'll be on Stage 3. Because if you you want to be able to get the stacks early. Forgotten has basically taken the best Warlord impression they can possibly get. Oh, and the stimulus on here at 40 is really huge. So DQ is actually about to go for a massive roll down because you need to stabilize. And he's only on Tristana 1.
Yeah, huge amount of gold for that roll down. So it's kind of best case scenario as far as what he's trying to accomplish here. There's 2 MFs, needs 3 more right now. Definitely needs the items too. He doesn't really have MF items. Really looking for a Tristana. That's kind of tragic that he rolled that much and didn't even find a Tristana too. Yikes. You can see him kind of smiling and shaking his head there. Yeah, I think you kind of expect to find at least 1 more Tristana with that much gold rolled. That's an unfortunate circumstance there.
Okay, I am all in DQA 8th. Any agreeers?
You might be right.
This is so bad. Like, I can't. This is one of the fastest 8ths we might see in the entire tournament. Bertosaurus with a little emote on the little legend because Bert is playing the opposite side of the equation. Bert is almost guaranteed not to take 8th, applying a ton of pressure. We'll see if the Radiant items can make up for it. There is the Luminous Deathblade that you can attach to Tristana, but still no Tristana 2 means
there it is, finally.
Guarantee that you won't go 8th. Yikes.
Like, how do you find 7 MFs before a Tristana 2? It happens sometimes. Yeah. I'll never forget the game where I got a Fizz 3 before I got a Rumble 2 way back in like set 3.
Oh, the Glamorous Gauntlet. Okay, so Broccoli ends up choosing this Jewel Gauntlet Radiant powered up. Yeah. And that's actually not the worst item if Broccoli wanted to place it on Draven, but I partially wonder if Rageblade had any merit to it because, Draven used to really like having Rageblade in previous iterations of set 5. So I'm curious to see why Broccoli doesn't like that in particular. Another thing I was considering was just straight up taking frontline items because he almost lacks entirely into his composition. But just look at this Draven go. The Jewel Gauntlet crits are so strong, healing for almost full. Maybe Broccoli knows something we don't, and the Glamorous Gauntlet ends up being a really powerful pick. And we talked about how Forgotten is really strong at specifically this stage of the game, because he's almost at full stacks on all of his Forgotten, which is huge to be able to get the power spike up.
You know, it's kind of funny to see him pick up MFs as well, too, since we know DQA kind of needs those as well. But it's interesting with Draven when we go back and talk about the concept of front-loaded versus back-loaded damage as well. And Draven kind of works in a little bit of a way that Kale did back in like set 4 as well, right? Where you could build her multiple different ways, where you sometimes need to get the damage at the beginning of the fight, in which case you don't need as strong of a front line. Other times you're going to ramp up slower because of your items, like with a Rageblade build, and then you're going to need a stronger front line to allow that to happen. Where there seems to be a lot of backline access in the meta right now, maybe emphasizing Draven's ability to do damage quickly and early is a pretty good call. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work out.
All right, well, we're going to hop on board with Nubao, who is rolling down at 4-1. Has the Nocturne 2, which does stabilize, but has no Revenant with it. Nocturne without Revenant is actually surprisingly, weak, because you just can get bursted down. There's so much CC available that even finding any single Revenant at all would be such a huge power spike. Collecting the extra Rakans, which is pretty fascinating. If he ends up chasing and hitting Rakan 3, usually a nice support unit to go alongside the Ivern. But just look at this. This Nocturne is just getting chain CC'd, but thankfully able to get a little bit more damage. Not enough. The Draven turns around, instantly gets the crits off to survive with the Legionnaire buff. And maybe this was the key all along. The Legionnaire buff for Draven, there's a lot of debate on whether or not it helps or hurts him based on the itemization. But there's one thing you can't deny, is that Draven stayed alive for a lot longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of healing and just like instantly deleting champions on the other side that we're going to see from that Draven. But right now, Nubal's board, he's missing a Diana. He doesn't have 4 assassins online just yet. You know, you've got that kind of Sentinel mid-game going, but it's a little bit rough. At least he found the Infinity Edge. That's going to help. You know, it's funny. I was playing a game, and Frodan was kind of coaching me earlier today, and this board from Nubal is looking very similar to what we were playing. And that ended up being a first. It wasn't against players like this, but, you know, if you can find the Diana, if you can get the Assassins online, you know, it can become a strong board.
Oh, totally. This is a board that can hard stabilize, and Nubal being at 41 is actually quite unfortunate, because he would prefer to be 1 less HP to roll it down once he hits the Radiant Blessing. Going up against Kurum X, Kurum is leaning more towards that AD tree, as you can see, incorporating Jax and Skirmishers into it. This is a board that can actually go toe-to-toe, and with Nidalee having so much dodge, but with the rapid light cannon means that you can't dodge those hits. This is a really, this should be a win here for Nubal. However, it's not necessarily a good thing. Again, Nubal's in a situation where he kind of wants that Radiant Blessing. He wants to take a very narrow loss. He also wants to avoid the fact that he could go 8th alongside his teammate DQA, who's also at 13 HP. He finds an Ivern. That's huge for Nubal in particular. And now can start to transition out some of these units that he doesn't really want to hold on long term.
Yeah, getting Revenant in is big, but still really could use that 4 assassin. Like the 2 Rakan 2s are just kind of like hurting my soul. It's a lot of, it's like theoretically a good amount of sustain, but you definitely rather have some decent assassins. So looking at Solus's board now, he did find a Vel'Koz, moved the pretty good items over to that. 3 redeemed at the moment, but yeah, Fiddlesticks 2, it's going to sustain a bit. Vel'Koz not on the right side though. Oh man, that assassin just going to wreck him.
Yeah, if there's a candidate to challenge DQA for 8th, it's this board right now, because of just the fact that Solus doesn't have a lot of HP to stabilize, and he's very far from stabilizing. Vel'Koz, while is great, really needs a strong front line, but I'm actually looking at Solus's bench, and I'm evaluating. He has a 2-star Nautilus, a 2-star Leona. He is ready for the pivot, but it is a tight race. Taking a loss down to 22, DQA is stabilizing. I am transitioning. I'm all in Solus for 8th place.
I think that's probably wise. Looking at a team, what's their team name? Rat Owl. Our 2 Invictus Gaming players, Nubal and DQA, like, they do need to stabilize. This might end up being a big Rat Owl comeback. We'll see. At least Nubal's looking a little bit better. Let's see DQA looking around the carousel here.
I mean, DQA is in danger, but at the same time, he's kind of stabilizing, right? He has 3-star MF, and that buys him enough time. I think people severely overrate the power of 3 stars in these kinds of compositions. because what really becomes important is whether or not you can stall long enough for your carry and have secondary sources of damage in case your primary carry doesn't work out. I can't tell you how many times I've seen 2-star Tristana still take a top 4, even a top 2.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, there were definitely plenty of examples of those. If you go back and look through the profiles of the players that played last week, we had plenty of games where there were top 4s, top 2s with just a Tristana 2. That MF3 just does so much damage.
Okay.
The longer the game goes on.
Well, Solus does have 2-star Vel'Koz as well. DQA with the Phantom Swap tech, binding your return and send it back onto the battlefield key to the same thing on the right side of Solus. This is good positioning switch from DQA. That Trap Claw and that Frozen Heart ends up being pretty reliable as well. Does Vel'Koz able to kill off the Tristana, though? Really big power coming out. And DQA might end up actually dying just from this fight entirely as well. There's so much damage. What's going to actually happen?
Like Sniper Vel'Koz went right to the MF, and that is an unfortunate end for DQA. You were all in on Solus, Frodan. Your poor stocks.
I know. I actually all in on Solus, and I got punished. But it was very close result, and DQA taking 8th place. He was so close to stabilizing. But yeah, it's that's just what TFT is. Roppy on board with Raditz now, who was playing that AP tree, and DQA is a player that is taking 8th place. So Raditz probably feels pretty solid about the way the trajectory is going. We did know that he started off with the brand carry. He's looking around to see if he needs a reposition whatsoever. So far, so good.
Yeah. Did find the Abomination stuff. He's got 4 Abom in. I really like the Radiant Locket. That's been really good in Abomination for a couple weeks now. Just because sometimes you can double up if you manage on getting the Abom out while the main Locket carry is still there. Either way, can he survive this Vel'Koz? It's going to take a while to kill the Abomination. And here's where the healing from the Locket comes in handy.
Yes,
I think it's going to be enough.
So.
Yeah, it won't be a terrible loss, but
it's not a bad loss. And from here, Ray has faded the hardest part, which is skipping 7. Trying to go to level 8 and roll it down with a lot of gold is the hardest part about this composition. I see a lot of people get to 8 and they either have not enough HP or they have not enough gold. And Ray seems to be straddling the line very carefully. You can see him selling the brand. He's getting ready to transition. He's going to have 50 gold to roll. Actually, he's rolling right now. I think this is really smart. He gets first looks at it, right? A lot of people are anticipating the roll as 5-1. If you can just be a little bit ahead of them, give up, 2 to 3 gold because you don't get that extra interest. Instead, you get the ability to get the first priority and dibs on these units over everybody else. So I think this is really smart from Raditz.
Yeah, just has to pay off. The roll down has to work. Jumps back up to 30 gold real quick before the round swap's over. Trying to find it. Okay. A lot of times you'd be happy to see the Akshan. Not this time. Another Ivern. Okay, gets another Nunu too. There's a Teemo. Okay. That's one of the ones he's going to be looking for, but doesn't find like the Heimerdinger or anything like that.
Okay, Vel'Koz could theoretically go in. Finds another Nico. Teemo 2 is a huge deal, especially with blue buff in particular. Blue buff is much more of Teemo's speed than it is for Heimerdinger. So Ray may have done it. Oh my goodness, though. Nubal is prepared. Nubal does not have Diana, which is actually a really big deal. The 50% slow could also become a huge factor, but the Nocturne is just immediately going to delete Teemo. Yeah, however, there's so much stuff that maybe is enough to get at least minimize a loss.
I'm just watching that Nocturne, man. It looks like it barely might die. Yeah, Revenant buff coming in, but there's too much on the other side. So that was a close call, but yeah, Nubal does get taken out, at least that run anyway, by Raditz. Interesting. That's so big to find that Teemo, and you need to give up 12 HP, even with a Nico to be able to do that. So it's a bold move to go for the Teemo like that, but paid off. Seems like it's good.
Wow, Nubal was pre-level to 8, and this is where everything unlocks. You often want to roll it all the way down on level 8 because you want to get access to those Revenants. We do see no Volibear, but finds Diana, which is huge. Viego's also a big spike, has a Nico to make everything together. We're so close to greatness here for Nubal's board.
Finding some good stuff. Obviously, the Assassins are the best thing you could possibly find. Ends up Nicoing for that Nocturne 3 in the end. Low HP, doesn't want to risk waiting another round. I think that's a fine decision. And now, now he's got 4 Assassins online. Oh, but he goes against the Jax. Fights it early. That's the best case scenario. Oh, man, because that's the thing. Jax boards can be tough for the Assassins to beat if the Jax is allowed to ramp up. Didn't get to this time, so it looks like the Nocturne will be able to carve through the rest of this.
Yeah, a huge round here for New Battle stabilizing. I am kind of pleasantly surprised to see him chase Rakan 3 and stay with the Sentinels. A lot of people try to just lean into the Revenants, but the Viego is trying to do his best to steal. Not going to be able to be successful, and the Nocturne should be able to clean this up. And Kerm's going to take damage and start to collect his Radiant Blessings. HJW taking 7, Solus stabilizing at 6 HP, and things are heating up. I do anticipate New Battle to have to start making some harder decisions. Is he going to hold on and chase his Rakan 3? It looks like he's committed to at the very least. And I like this variation. You know, I think a lot of people all in a little bit too hard on like the Assassin Revenant and just like, you know, ride or die and then maybe start adding Mystics. But maybe this Rakan 3 can really show me a different way that you can top end your comp.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I was selling all my DQA stocks in the first place one. I don't think that's gonna pan out.
Probably not. Oh my goodness, Draven didn't even get a chance to breathe. Broccoli immediately loses his main source of damage. Does end up stealing the Rakan with his own Viego, which is nice to help minimize the damage. He is almost certainly going to lose. Can he reduce his damage just by a little bit? Barely able to get into the single digits. Is Solus going down? Looks like Kerm's going to be able to eliminate Solus here in 6th place. And honestly, Solus looks like he was going to go 8th. So the fact that he's able to even go 6th might even be a good outcome for his team.
Yeah, I suppose you'll take it. It is one teammate eliminating the other, if I've got that right. I believe.
Yeah,
yes,
that's actually
it is.
a unfortunate reality.
Yeah, these things happen sometimes. Solus does go out in 6th. But you're right. At least it's not a 7th or 8th. It's another point or two, sure.
New Battle.
And meanwhile, HJW, who got 2 firsts last week, out in 7th as well. So rough start to the day for him.
Wait, what? Neither players took the Trap Claw in the late stages of this game? Trap Claw is the item you think about in this part of the game when you get completed items carousels. Alongside Shroud and Zephyr, it's just one of the highest win rate items in TFT currently. If you're not looking for it in late stage carousels, I don't know what you were doing. It is so powerful to be able to have 3 spell shields and have the flexibility of moving it, especially in more positioning reliant compositions that you have to be able to juke your opponent. That being said, you saw that was a second pick priority. We're hopping on board with Kermex. He needs to have this Viego land in a really good spot. That's his biggest priority here on top of keeping his Jack safe.
I mean, the thing is, like, getting the QSS for that Viego is pretty huge, actually.
Totally.
Makes that Viego 2 much better. Goes up against Broccoli. Oh, Viego 2's all over the place today, apparently.
Yeah,
except for the True Assassin board.
Oh, he didn't end up landing onto the Draven, but might get a second chance at it because the Viego isn't stunned, but he loses his Jax to Broccoli's Viego. It might be a turning of both the carries. No, Viego ends up going around and leaves Draven alone. That is not the result that Curran was looking for. Unfortunately, got the raw end of both of those Viego deals. Now might not even be in the top 4. Very, very sad case here for Curran. But of course, it comes down to small nuance of positioning. If Viego's on the far right, instead of kind of splitting the difference and being in the middle, probably actually even won that fight. It's so hard to say with these kinds of battles being such on a knife's edge here.
Yeah, it's really close, at least, between Broccoli and Kuramex, HP-wise anyway. But as far as who's actually going to win this, I mean, Raidit's the only one on the win streak right now, but that could turn around, too.
I mean, Ray hitting the Teemo 2 was massive. Should be at least in top 3 or better based off the HP lead. Burt is going up against Kuramex here. A chance to eliminate Kuram. Burt's board looks very, very powerful. Pocketing the Teemo correctly because of all the Viegos, and that GA will keep the Teemo safe for a second cast. But Jax does not look like he is getting challenged. Viego is still alive on the board, trying to turn units. And this is going to be Kuramex applying some pressure upstairs. And Broccoli is just barely trying to hang in there, but he's going to take a 5th place, and Kuram has done it. A very impressive top 4 from Liquid's Kuramex.
Yeah, you'll take those for sure. Meanwhile, Nubal, who we were really worried about early on, is again on a win streak in 3rd place. So going all the way from the bottom to the top, and with DQA finishing in 8th, that team really needs it. And yeah, that Nocturne board is a little bit scary, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it exactly, right? That Assassins can hard stabilize. And when I mean hard stabilize, Nubal could theoretically not lose the battle for the rest of the game and be at 26 life. I was playing a game actually earlier this morning before work, where I played Assassins, I went down to 12 hit points, and I actually won out from there all the way to the very end, where I accidentally made a pretty critical positioning error, and I didn't Zephyr something correctly. And that's just what Assassins do. Assassins can find a way to just hit everything, and then all of a sudden turn every fight around, because the way critical strike damage works is that you win convincingly, or it never gets online, and you don't kill a single unit. The fights can be so polarizing with the results. You can see Kurum swapping. He needs his Viego, he needs his Shroud, he needs his Diana, he needs to keep his Jack safe. There's so many things going on with this half skirmisher assassin board that he needs to make sure that it lands correctly. It's going against Nubao, who doesn't really get the good positioning onto his backline. Carries, but the Viego is trying to at least stall the Jax. And Jax ends up dying. What a big steal here for Nubao.
Yeah, and I'm just watching that Nocturne just absolutely tear apart everyone slowly but surely. The Radiant Cannon is huge for that Nocturne. You can see why.
Definitely. And look, Bert and Ray are probably just like, whoo, good thing I didn't play against Nubao, because I might have not gotten top 3. I was saying that these players feel virtually guaranteed top 3. I like this positioning from Ray. Now that you're facing against 2 other people, it's top 3. There's a 50-50 chance you end up facing against the assassin player no matter what. And you want to pocket the Teemo and ensure that Diana placements won't even reach her if you're able to leave up this small little space next to Gwen. So this is very deliberate from Ray. Nubao's Diana will have to jump to the left of Gwen. And we're going to see whether or not this is enough to keep Teemo safe. Teemo walks into the range of Diana. Have to be really careful about how that ends up going. If this Nocturne is not able to get online because the Teemo's slow, that's a really big deal. Slowing it by 50% is massive. And just look at all these explosions. Yep. Nubao takes the first loss and almost a stage and a half.
Yeah, that's big, because, and I really like the fact that he moved his Gwen 1 to the left over, because he knew both that Teemo wouldn't be in like the heat from the assassins immediately with the way he's positioning, and there was a good chance that Teemo would walk into the damage reduction from Gwen anyway. So that's a nice little positioning thing there too, is that you don't necessarily need the Gwen right on your carry if you can kind of predict the movement a little bit better.
Oh, Ray trying to greed a little bit. At least he's splitting the difference. He's positioning his front line as if he's going to D-corner, but he can move it right back, as you can see. Puts Volibear in the front, going up against the ghost of Bertosaurus, who does have the most high health and probably guaranteed a top 2 if he can eliminate Nubao. But in the meantime, on Ray's POV, there is a Teemo 2 and a Heimerdinger 2. So in terms of 2 different AP carries, he is outnumbered. And look at his Teemo 2 put damage out but get eliminated. Radius is out to the ghost of Bertosaurus here at the middle of stage 6. It is a double kill potential. Or did I speak too soon? Maybe Ray ends up surviving. A lot of units end up dying.
I don't know.
Oh,
he didn't live. It is a double
barely.
kill.
Wow.
Bertosaurus ends up taking it, and for a player like Bertosaurus, he's a player too that's been getting a little bit of flack, right? Because he's been such like a huge presence on ladder for a long time, but it's kind of struggled in tournaments from time to time. So getting a first with the first game of the day, it's got to feel really good. And what else feels good is I had a good amount of Bertosaurus stock in my predict who's going to go first game on fantasytft.com. So we'll see if that actually helped me out. I don't know. I had a lot of other like messed up stuff, but enough about that. Congrats, Bertosaurus. Good first game.
So last week, when I was kind of watch partying the second day of competition, I was with I was with Raditz, and I started watching Bert play, or like talking about some top players, and a lot of people regularly rate Bert in their top 3. For example, Soju does as well. And so I was talking with Esports Law, who'd be casting tomorrow, I believe, like who would be in your players to send to Worlds and have a high chance for North America to win TFT Worlds. And I put Bert in my top 3, and I think he was surprised to hear that. But the more I watch him play, the more I realize that Bert is just insane at TFT. And if he is on point, he is probably the scariest player in North America alongside like Nubao and the others.
That's the thing. If he figures out how to consistently do it in tournaments, he is going to be one of those players that's going to be nigh unstoppable, as we saw in game number 1. We'll be able to get the scores up pretty soon. I believe Lobby B was ending like we heard 1 round later than what we just saw in Lobby A, so we'll probably have a minute or 2 before we get the scores for you in front of that. But Frodan, how close were you as far as predicting the 8th place player? Did you end up doing okay in that game?
Yeah, it looks like I finished 14th, and I think top 10 get payout. So not I believed a little bit too hard in Solus, and Solus didn't go 8th. But then again, that is my specialty. I'm really bad at predictions, and therefore I use my powers for good, and I try to wish luck for the friends that I wish bad luck upon my friends that I want to do well. So like, for example, I like DM Becca, and I was like, good luck. And she's like, wait, no, you're cursed. I'm like, oh, that's true. Bad luck. Bad luck, Becca. And she's like, okay, thanks.
I just like, if I ever talk to like a pro player before a match in like any game now, I do the same thing. I don't wish them good luck or anything like that, because I've had too many times where I've done that and then the pros like totally bombed out in the match later in the day, and I'm like, oh man, and it's probably me. I feel bad about that. I didn't do as well in mine. I ended up 40th, but I had Bert stock. I just didn't have enough of it apparently. I don't know. It's okay. Stock market, Frodan.
There's many competitions, right? There's a game every single, or rather, there's a contest for every single game. So game 2, you can predict the winners. So if you're jumping in halfway and you're like, oh, that sounds really fun, like kind of like a fantasy like bracket prediction equivalent of pick'ems, you can go ahead and join us here at fantasytft.com. It's free, and I definitely will be trying to see if I can make top 10 again for game 2. I was so close, though. I want to redeem my gift cards. Just need a couple more tickets.
You need 5 tickets for that, I believe. So you're close. You said you had 3 from last time?
I have 3 tickets from last week. I'm trying to see if I can put together a couple more. But congratulations to Bert and HJW, at least for Bert's finish. And Bert got, of course, the pool play earnings is $150. But the most important thing is that overall, they're in second place. So they are in good position to make it to the top 4 and qualify for the finals.
Right, exactly. Ooh, Lobby B, Delicious Milk takes the first over there. GV8 in a close second, it looks like. And then GV8's teammate, Spicy Appies. So a pretty good good result for the GV8 team there. Becca as well in 4th. So our top 4 were 2 teams. That's pretty insane.
That's right. It's the power of the Peepo. Why Peepo Happy and Peepo Riot ends up taking top 2 in Lobby B. Meanwhile, Ramkev and Nimejack, who has some choice words for players who weren't choosing them as a top 10 team in this competition, end up taking 5th and 6th. But you know what? It could be worse. You could be Team Aegon.gg going 7th and 8th. Oof, that stinks.
Hey, great marketing, not the greatest TFT play, at least in game number 1. We'll see if they can turn it around. That does mean for Wide People Happy, though, that they are up to 150 in pool play earnings and first place in points overall. Obviously, we're going to see kind of lopsided points at the end of today because half our teams will not have played yet. After tomorrow, we'll get a better picture of the points overall between all of the 16 teams. But we can take a look at the points right now regardless. As you can see, Wide People Happy jumps into first place with 63 points. We are going 8th in 58 points, so kind of doing the opposite there. And just in general. But what's interesting is even after a game where Megafurts didn't even play, they're still 5th in the standings overall.
Yeah, totally. And keep in mind that a big portion of these teams aren't playing today. So while Megafurts came in with like this big lead that we talked about, they're going to be probably like 8th or 9th by the end of the day. So yeah, we'll see how the standings are. And it really matters about next week when we're talking about where the current placements are. But for now, I mean, if you're Delicious Milk and Becca, you got to be feeling about your good chances. I wish them bad luck. They went 1st and 4th. I wish them more bad luck and hope that they never hit anything that they're ever looking for games 2 to 4.
Well, in that case, I think we need to send a lot of bad luck Aegon and Spencer's way, because I think they use all the reverse casting cursing that they need right now.
That's true.
So absolute atrocious worst of luck to that duo there.
Oof.
Of course, by the power of psychological reversal of caster cursing fortunes.
You can't acknowledge it, DoA. Then
Can you cheat it like that, though?
Yeah,
that's the thing. You're openly trying to cheat the caster curse.
No. If you acknowledge it, you reverse
you
the
already
reverse.
Acknowledged it.
You've played Uno before. You can reverse the reverse. Do not try to turn this on its head, though. Don't ruin it.
I forgot the rules to Uno long ago, Frodan. I haven't played that game for like at least 20 years at this point.
Okay, so
When's the last time you played Uno?
I mean, I in our Twitch Rivals play sessions.
I was gonna say, yeah.
We put on Uno events like every now and then, so.
I forgot Uno was popular again recently, so yeah. Maybe I should get back onto the Uno bandwagon, but it's too late. It's already left.
Yeah,
Uno's come and gone.
Left. The train has
wait
left
another
the
20
station.
years. Yeah, well, it sounds like we're ready to get into our next game. We're going to be jumping in with Lobby B here, on board with the winner of Lobby B Game 1. It is Delicious Milk. He and Becca make up the team Wide People Happy, currently number 1 in points after a 1-4 finish in their lobby earlier, just minutes earlier actually. See what they can get done in lobby in game 2.
Yep, that's right. Trying to see if I can pull up their match history so we can identify what exactly that they were playing in that first game. Looks like Milk took it with an Abomination Legendaries comp, playing 2 fully itemized Heimerdingers. And then GVA took second with a Zyra 3 4 Mystic reroll composition. No Spellweaver synergy. Really interesting that Zyra was able to do that. And then Spicy Appies with a Yasuo 3, and then a Skirmisher Knights board, Fortnite Jax, from Becca. No Rats. The Rats player, the Nocturne player, the Nidalee Riven player, they all went bot 4. Interesting.
Huh. You know, I kind of... It kind of depends on how fast you can get the Rats online, really, right? Where it's like, if the Tristana 3 happens quickly, or really a lot of cases, if the Tristana 2 happens quickly, then you can stabilize enough that when you're rerolling, you're not, you know, losing as much HP, and then that's a situation where you end up winning once you hit the Tristana 3 and a couple other 3-stars. But if you hit that Tristana 2 late, I feel like that's when that comp has a much higher chance of taking like a bot 4, because you just hemorrhage so much HP in the mid game.
This is really unusual. I'm seeing Milk's lips concave up. Like is he smiling? I don't understand. Is he having fun?
I don't think he'd want to admit it, but yeah, for a second there, it did look like he was having fun.
He's gonna pre-level. Okay, he was thinking about making gold, but I agree with this. Selling a pair with your Sentinels here, like he actually has paired up everything outside of the Senna. Felt really bad. Plus the level does give him slightly increased odds that he can high roll something really, really powerful.
Right.
To start out his level 2 campaign. But yeah, I think Milk's actually been grinding the game a lot. You know, he likes to make people believe that he's not trying his best in a lot of cases. He likes to talk about how North America sucks outside of the top 20 players. He has some choice words for some players who are not able to get above 1,000 LP Challenger. But that being said, Milk does it, of course, in his own weird, humorous way, to show that he actually cares a lot. And he's actually been putting a ton of time into TFT in particular lately. He's been trying out different compositions and actually talking to me about some of the comps that he's been trying out. I wonder if he's going to bust some of them out. I don't want to reveal it just in case he's keeping it in his back pocket. But he's certainly putting in the time and lapping out some new stuff. We'll see if he's busting it out this game.
Well, this game already, he's got one of the classic strongest early game boards in terms of 3 Skirmisher, 3 Sentinel. It doesn't get a whole lot stronger than this. Finds another sword, can make a Deathblade out of that. At some point, Deathblade's been popping up on a lot of carries lately. He does find a Tristana and 2 more Poppies. You can see the cogs in his brain turning right now. Yep. It's going rats. Rats? With a question mark? Rats? No. Okay.
It might just be an opportunity for him to just play the Tristana anyways and just item hold with the additional benefit that you're kind of griefing the other Hellion players. If you just make a Tristana 2 and play that as your item carrier, it was actually the strongest board that you could have made at the very beginning of set 5.5, Sentinel, Skirmisher, Cannoneer. But they have since, of course, nerfed all of those units and have been announced that they will continue to nerf them. Tristana, if you missed it, by the way, the news, Mortdog did announce that Tristana will be receiving additional nerfs in the B patch. So it is interesting to see how that's going to play out.
Oh, GV8 playing in typical GV8 fashion, slamming as many items as possible early on. And we talked last game about how the Trap Claw just becomes really important the later the game goes on. But it's pretty nice early in the game too, because abilities get cast less often because there's not a lot of items to make them happen quicker, so that Trap Claw becomes more meaningful. It doesn't look like this round's going to be a win, but I'm never opposed to the slam of the Trap Claw early on. No, you feel like there's nothing else really to go for.
You could argue that GVH is trying to preserve HP, and that slam that Trap Claw potentially did buy him that, right? He killed 1 unit, and that 1 unit might be that difference. Every single inch that you're able to get, or centimeter, I'm trying to be friendly to some of our international fans. We do have some Canadians as well who do use that. But yeah, every single advantage that you can get or HP that you can fight for is huge in these kinds of lobbies. And a lot of players who try to convince you otherwise are bad at TFT.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with the results, and GV8 has them. It's when I've been watching his stream, it seems like he's leaned towards Abomination a lot lately. And you can see, or at least the AP tree a lot lately too. And you can see signs of that with the Shojins and obviously the Trap Claw pretty important in protecting some of those casters, like the Heimerdinger that needs a bit of time before he gets his cast off. So it's a very GV8 looking game based on, you know, what I've seen on his stream and his tournament games a lot lately.
Very much so. I do wonder what Spencer is up to. I think he's a player that is interesting to watch because he is very much first or eighth. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and start buying Spencer stocks right now because I think that he is the epitome of first or eighth as a player, and I think last game has proved that. We'll see whether or not he can follow through with it, as he is right now lose streaking very openly. But only time will tell. It's really difficult to say who's like currently, you know, in a really good position to win the lobby. As we do hop on board with I'm Jack playing a redeemed Varus. Have you seen a lot of Varus on ladder? Because I know it's been popping up for some people.
I haven't seen a ton of it myself, but I never take the games I play, you know, too seriously because I'm obviously not playing at the elo a lot of these pro players are playing at. But I have heard people talking about Varus becoming Varus reroll becoming a possible build that's worth exploring a little bit more. So, you know, I never assume that's what we're gonna see because I just feel like I haven't seen enough of that yet. But I'd love to see somebody try it.
Yeah, I think the problem with Varus reroll is that it's largely tied to the success of other rerollers, because while Varus is really strong, if other people aren't rerolling like Tristana and 2 cost, like if you know if there's no one like if it's like Cavaliers, right? Some people still might end up playing the MF reroll
Usually
build.
somebody is. Yeah.
Yeah, so if someone is rerolling the 2 cost and pulling them out, Varus actually gets much stronger because then you're able to reroll for not only Varus but also Syndra and a couple of other redeemed units. So I'm open to it. I tried it. I feel like other people have tried it and had mediocre success. Robin Songs might be the most notable of it. I see him taking a lot of bot 3s. So I think in this case, it might just be an item carrier. Not to mention that if we're looking at the itemization for it, Varus doesn't really want things like the Last Whisper. You want him to be casting a lot. And also like really hitting hard with each auto attack. And Last Whisper is not really the case. Usually you want kind of like a Rage Blade and then some support around that.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what I'm Jack played in week 1 as well, this is a little bit different than what he seemed to prefer there, where it was 3 games of Vel'Koz carry with the Abomination and the Revenant around it, and then 1 MF reroll game is what his floor amounted to last week. And obviously he's played a lot more since then, but just in terms of what showed up in the tournament, hasn't been anything like this quite yet, but you're in a situation where you get these items, you kind of make what's going to be best at the time, you know?
Yeah. Taking a look at the match history here for I'm Jack. Ended up playing a Nidalee 3 Riven 3 reroll attempt alongside Ramkev, who's rerolling Tristana.
Okay.
Didn't end up working out as he took a 6th place. Looks like he just couldn't get Riven 3 online as he had Nidalee 3, but only Riven 2. And as we said, Nidalee 3 falls off late game. It's just not really the carry that you want to really put all your eggs in the basket. Fantastic as a backup. So we'll see if he ends up leaning towards that tree again. In the meantime, we're heading over with Spencer. Full open forward, 62 HP. Has everything set up for the rats, but kind of missing one really big component of this. Just the Tristana. If you don't have Tristana, you're going 8th. So I will see if this ends up working out for Spencer, as he clearly shows he is not afraid to go for that 8th place.
Yeah, the funny thing is that the Ziggs ends up being a pretty nice kind of like item holder for the Tristana in a weird sort of way, because he does auto attack quickly, he casts quickly, so you can get a little bit more out of having AD items on it than you could out of a caster. Really any other caster, honestly, but it's still obviously not ideal. We'll see what he finds though. Oh, finds a sword. All right, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, you just put all the items on the Ziggs right now. If you're in this kind of situation, you don't just hold out for the Tristana and not place items. You do this, you know?
We'll see. I mean, he has to roll and stabilize on 3-2. A pretty well-known player who kind of traverses across every server that has been playing this comp is Hunter, and he was kind of the first to really show us the consistency of this comp if you are able to stabilize at 3-2. But if you don't stabilize at 3-2, you're in a pretty bad spot. And we saw what happened to DQA, who went 8th with Tristana. And again, while that comp is getting nerfed, it's not like it doesn't have its own weaknesses. Oh, speaking of, there's some really spicy things going on the other side with Ramkev playing, holding Riven, but using Vayne as an item holder. This is actually pretty interesting. I haven't seen people do this, and I wonder how good it is.
It's, people were trying Vayne reroll for a little while, and it seemed like the consensus was that it was middling at best, But I think you hit the nail on the head when it's just kind of an item holder kind of situation where he does win the round, obviously. You can see he's holding Dawnbringers, including the Riven on the bench. So while the Riven is the long-term plan, I think Vayne 2, if you can get it specifically, and a couple Forgottens is not a bad sort of transitionary comp to get there. There's a Tristana. Yeah.
The MF.
Oh, MF2. All right.
Pretty close. Usually you want 2-star Tristana or preferably 2-star Tristana and 2-star Kennen to feel stable. Finds 2-star
Nice.
Tristana. It's a really big key. Finds a second Kennen. Unable to piece together another 2-star. So this is somewhat stable. Could actually end up selling up to 20 gold here. Probably just dish the extra 2 cost that he doesn't really need. Okay roll down here for Spencer. Not great. Not the absolute worst, because we did find 4 Tristanas, and it looks like he does end up getting the win versus Becca and has stabilized at a reasonable level so far.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I'd say it's like the good side of average, basically. And to add to that, I thought the positioning was really good for Spencer as well, backlining things. And what that does is it creates more room for your Tristana, obviously. But the crucial thing is that it capitalizes on the fact that he's an MF2, right? Because it's going to bring everything to the backline near the MF. She's going to cast her ultimate on whoever she's targeting at the time. And so if you get everybody to group up in the back corner like that, you're going to just really hit the most people you can with the MF ult and get the most out of it. So I think the positioning is really good there, too, to kind of like take advantage of what he's been dealt,
Very much so. The positioning for Hellions have pretty much been figured out to always backline everything.
Yeah.
So we'll catch up with Spencer later on. In the meantime, hop on board with his teammate Aegon, who is, of course, defined by his very adorable shark emotes and all the art surrounding it. Looks like he is collecting a bunch of AD items, not re-rolling for the Callista, a build that has actually risen up a little bit in popularity. Seems like instead he's going to try to play Assassins. And if you actually look at Aegon's match history, he has actually played a pretty good amount of Assassins, both in this tournament and also on ladder. He did end up taking a 7th place last game with Assassins, but it just seemed like he didn't really get the Revenant portion up as much as he'd like to. And he also rerolls Brawlers with this composition, which is very unusual, given that most people don't really acknowledge Brawlers for the front line for any comp.
Yeah, I mean, Aegon has always tended to just, pick a line in his play and just stick with it, right? Across, a lot of games, across a lot of tournaments. And he did play a Brawler core 3 out of 4 games last week. The one he didn't was also an Assassin Nocturne game that I would imagine, if I went back and watched, he probably had Brawlers at the beginning of. I ended up getting 5 Revenants in that game. He got 2 top 4s. It was 8-2, 6-2 for scores overall, so the results were kind of up and down. But he definitely does enjoy the Brawlers line. It doesn't look like it's going to be that this time, though.
Whoa, he is rolling at 6. This is very unusual for a multitude
really
of
wants
reasons.
the Brawlers.
Yeah,
I spoke too soon. Yeah.
Aegon's line is that there's a lot of Brawlers at 2-star. You're specifically Sejuani and Set. But you might be able to still 3-star, Nunu and the rest of the Brawlers here at a reasonable clip. We have seen people do that. For example, look at Misfortune in these Hellion rerolls at 6. And then you can just try to capitalize on the fact that you're going to get the giant amount of gold from the Radiant Blessing and try to stabilize. The only thing is that because this is off cadence, you're never going to really hit the Revenants. And the Revenants is what, in many people's opinion, really makes Nocturne strong, because he almost has a built-in Guardian Angel into his kit.
Right.
So by not really acknowledging that, beyond just putting a second Revenant in with Ivern, for example, I do worry about the late game cap potential of this comp.
So what do you go for here? Yeah, the Frozen, honestly, the Radiant Frozen Heart has been really rising in stock lately as people have started to figure out the power that it has when you put it on something like a Diana. Otherwise, something like the Deathblade is great if he is thinking Riven, and it's also good on the Nocturne as well that we were talking about. A couple good items. Goes for the damage instead.
It's funny. There's a post on the competitive subreddit for TFT actually talking specifically about these items, that the Radiant Frozen Heart of Gold is actually so strong on Diana, And
Yeah.
items like Deathblade, while some people recommend it who are challenger players, actually was under contention. People are saying that they actually think that this item performs pretty poorly. And the data actually backs that up. Deathblade on like Nocturne, the Radiant Deathblade, actually performs one of the worst items on Nocturne, which is very surprising given the nature of how Deathblade stacks really well in like an assassin-based composition. So I'm curious, like which side do you lean on, DoA? Do you like the Radiant Deathblade?
I mean, the assassin tree is probably the one I've played the least out of all of the comps right now, so I don't have very good opinions on that particular one. But just in terms of just thinking about it logically, I suppose, I mean, if you get Nocturne attacking quickly, it would build the Deathblade fast. But, I mean, you're really more concerned about a lot of sustain with Nocturne, and Deathblade doesn't help a ton with that, so I'd probably lean away from it. But like I said, I don't have enough experience with the tree to really have a good opinion on it, I think.
Well, let me put this into perspective. So many people consider the Radiant Runin's Hurricane, which is the Rapid Light Cannon, or not Runin's Hurricane, sorry, RFC, to be the best item for Nocturne, and I don't disagree with that. Your average placing, if you put it on a Nocturne, is a 3.5, basically.
Okay.
If you put a Radiant Deathblade onto Nocturne, the average placement is a 4.9 almost.
That doesn't surprise me.
That is a very sharp discrepancy. And, part of the argument is that you really want to have these itemizations. As you can see, look at like Becca, for example, the having the Radiant Runin's Hurricane pretty strong. And it's a lot of times just trying to compensate for the weakness, right? You have to take things in context. Sometimes you just got to complete it because you need a damage item. And so that's probably what Aegon was thinking about. But I personally have a very soft spot for the Frozen Heart of Gold. I think that item is insane. So
it's a great item. Yeah.
We'll put a pin on that. I realize that we're talking about Aegon's board, and I feel like I could theory craft forever about this kind of stuff. But the important thing to focus is that Becca has wrestled away #1 in this lobby away from Milk, her teammate. But why people happy? Currently 1 and 2 at the beginning of stage 4.
Yeah, on a win streak. Really good Jax items. The double Runins is a little bit interesting, but you're going to be able to capitalize on it by having the Radiant Runins giving you just a ton of damage from your extra bolts. So or the one extra bolt anyway. So it's going to be good. But I wonder, is there a situation where you remake the Jax and maybe swap the regular Runins out for somebody else? Try to get something else more useful on the Jax, like a Bloodthirster or something like that?
It's hard to say, I think that right now Becca has 2 options. She can lean into a Fortnite Jax, which is just play 4 Knights plus Jax, and then you flex your Ironclads accordingly. The other option is for Becca to send it on 8 and hope for Akshan, because she actually has really good items for Akshan in particular. With the Runins and a Deathblade possibility. But the problem is that she's just a little bit too much biased towards offensive items, and she doesn't have defensive utility items. And that kind of stinks. Your items can only be 3, and she has 4 damage items that she could put on different carries. So we'll see how she ends up navigating this. The important thing is that she's stable, right? Even though she looks like she loses this fight, she lost by 1. And that's the power of Jax. Jax is a very strong stabilizer at just a 1-star version of him on stage 4.
Yeah, and I mean, it's looks like you're gonna have to swap views there. But as far as that goes, too, it feels like a lot of, and I mean, I think a lot of players that are trying to make their way up the TFT ladder fall into this trap a lot, where you over prioritize offensive items in a lot of cases, and in this meta specifically, the defensive items have become so much more important than they may have been in earlier sets and earlier patches, that you really do need to have a balance now, more than you needed to in the past, I think. It's an easy thing to miss in a lot of games.
Well, we'll see. Spicy Happy has a lot of good frontline. I ended up choosing the Brawler, which is pretty reasonable. Brawler is kind of like the small equivalent of a Warmog. It's not super reliable in that same way, but you spread out the health instead, and as a result, able to stabilize for his Ranger backline at 40. So we don't know exactly what the Radiant Blessing is, but I'm inclined to believe that it's components and gold, because we don't see any special items on the bench here. And Spicy Appies and GV8 have to be a little bit, concerned. They're both at the bottom of the standings together, holding hands, but they also get first pick. And they get to coordinate after taking these first looks. No Akshan on the carousel. I think that's the first thing that Spicy Happy was hoping for. But without that, ends up just taking this Ivern. You can maybe just play that and see if you can get the Revenant frontline going.
A Teemo for GV8. Not sure if that's going to fit his board too much, or if he's just, you know, grabbing it for the gold and things like that. But it'd be rough for GV8 and Spicy Appies to go 7-8 after having such a strong round number 1. It's the last thing you want to do.
For sure. Got confirmation, by the way, that is actually a tome of traits. So you get the emblem, which would make sense because we switched to Spicy Appies as he was picking that brawler emblem. Let's go ahead and see what he's able to roll down. Finds an Akshan. That is so big. Actually, he doesn't have the ability. I was looking at his itemization. For some reason, I kind of assumed that his Aphelios was holding really good items for that Akshan. Now kind of frozen exactly at the spot that he is right now. So he's going to go ahead and buy the Akshan. The Shojin is not particularly useful, and that might end up putting in a Diana or Ashe. But the Deathblade and the Runins, or sorry, the Deathblade and the Rageblade, it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and you can always find, okay, so a little bit more crowd control with faster Ashe casts with the Shojin. So I was going to say you can always find a usefulness for it. And the Akshan at this point in the game, too, even with an Akshan 1 with these items, is always going to at least kill a unit or two where the, you know, Aphelios may not have. So if you're going to lose, you're going to lose by a little bit less. And can you gang up on this Nidalee here? Yeah, okay, there we go. The Ashe. Okay, that pops the shield from the Bloodthirster. Oh, no. Oh, no. Maybe
Overtime Ashe. Overtime Ashe is actually quite strong.
Yeah.
Ends up getting the ability to chain stun and barely surviving. Aegon falls into 7th place. We're hopping on board with Aegon. With his Radiant Blessing. Looks like he did end up committing more towards the Riven. Look at the emblems. So he's thinking about Legionnaire. My first instinct was Cavalier Spat, but I am curious to see if he wants to lean towards 4 Legionnaire here.
I think 4 Legionnaire is going to give you certainly the most defensive bang for your buck, but if you can find a way to get 4 Legionnaire in, you know, and maintain Brawler Dawnbringer, which is not impossible, you can maybe make something out of this. 3 Legionnaire isn't going to do a ton for you at the moment, but you know, if you can find another one, then you might be in business.
Yeah,
he's got the Yasuo on the bench.
The reason why I like this, and I actually really appreciate the pivot here from Aegon, is because I think he recognizes that the Deathblade isn't really powerful on Nocturne, but it is very strong on Riven because it empowers her next auto attack by a percentage, and Deathblade will scale with that appropriately. But there is a lack of Bloodthirster, and a lot of Riven mains love Bloodthirster on her. But you know what you can do to compensate? You can actually add more Legionnaires in. So this is a really interesting variation that Aegon's kind of concocting that might be an unusual 4 Brawler, 4 Dawnbringer, 4 Legionnaire. It is also his 2nd Legionnaire emblem, because I see another one on the set. This is a particularly interesting board state that Aegon has stumbled upon that I'm sure if Mortdog was watching would be quite delighted by.
I know he's been playing some Legionnaire games on stream. I've been seeing some of those, even before the patch. Oh, finds a Draven, okay. So I think you go to 8 here, because he doesn't want to take out either Dawnbringer or Brawler. Yeah, so it goes to 8. And you're just looking for a good Legionnaire to put in. It's going to be Yasuo for now, because you at least get the Nightbringer trait in there as well. Finding the Garen is always...
Is Legionnaire Garen, like, actually good? Because he does actually empower his next auto attack after he casts with his Victorious trait. Which actually makes me think that could be reasonable. I don't know how strong it is on Soraka. It does give her a little bit extra attack speed, or a lot of extra attack speed, so she can cast faster. But we'll see. We're going up against Spencer, who seems to have everything online. Spencer also has the Kennen 3 as well with the Frozen Heart. No Morel Namcon, so not the BIS, but this is a very, very strong board to go up against, and that's only a Riven 2. But the Riven 2 with the Deathblade stacks are just doing 195 with each auto. It's so insane. 16,000 damage.
This is really interesting. Because a lot of people have been looking for like various, you know, good Legionnaire things, and this is 2 Legionnaire spatulas. Let's be fair about how often this will pop up in the average game, but it is really cool to see it work out. Loaded Dice is the choice for Ramkev.
Oh,
interesting.
Dice. I mean, it's because he's contested. He might feel like he needs help. He's clearly going for a Nidalee 3 and hasn't even had Riven 2, but now starting to piece together all the stuff that he needs to be successful. He didn't find the Dawnbringer spat, which is quite unfortunate. I think one of his outs that in his mind was to find 8 Dawnbringers and just fully commit to this. But this does find the Nidalee 3. That's huge. Can Deathblade Riven. He's the position. Oh!
Oh no.
I'm not sure that was intentional.
That was probably not intentional. Yeah. Yeah, judging by Ramkev's expression at the moment, I don't think that was intentional.
No.
Does get 6 Dawnbringer in there with the Dawnbringer release in. That is a bit of a feels bad. He's got a Gragas on the bench, so honestly, you probably just swap that out because a Gragas 1 versus Gragas 2 at this point in the game isn't the biggest deal.
Yeah.
But that's... Yeah. Alright, can the
Snidely's barely gonna die.
Shield? Oh.
Oh, so close.
That's an Akshan 2 on the other side, though. That's a lot of damage.
It's true. A lot of these boards are so close to be able to hit their peak power level, but none of them seem to be, except for the Akshan 2 player that Ramkev just faced. I wasn't paying attention to it. It might have been Spicy Appies. But like in this case, it's just he feels so close. Oh god, it's so painful to sell that Gragas in this position, particularly because he has a brawler spat.
Yeah. I mean, it's a... I guess you'd rather do this than leave the individual swords on them, and at least you just put the Garen in here. You lose the Brawler buff, but it's only 400 HP at 5-3, which is not going to be that impactful. Decent Shroud, but you're going up against a Legionnaire board, so...
Yeah.
Not help out too much.
Quite an important fight. If Aegon can deal critical damage to Ramkev, then the Nidalees and other units get unlocked, but vice versa. It works both ways. If Ramkev puts Aegon in a position where he might end up dying, then the Rivens get unlocked. This is a game of chicken with their economy. I also see a world where Ramkev neither levels nor rolls to try to see if Aegon dies. There's a Dawnbringer spat on this carousel, and it's coming Ramkev's way.
He's going to get it, too. I don't think anyone else is really going to be looking for that.
He's going for it.
Wow. That's huge.
Okay,
that is
the setup.
8 Dawnbringer.
All right, Ramkev, let's go. You can see him getting hydrated. He's juiced up. This is a game. We have a game on our hands. Everyone gets emblems. The Radiant Blessing, where everyone gets the Tome of Trades, makes the game so creative and fun. It makes me wish that it is almost a feature of games. Like maybe like... 25% of the time you get these kinds of trades. It's so interesting, the kind of boards that you can put together, and I want to see the lengths of which Ramkev will go to make this 8 Dawnbringer board happen. He finds 2 Viegos. That's a great holder of the spat. Oh my goodness gracious.
Wow. I mean, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches right now, and if he positions this Viego well, you can get a lot of value out of it just with the damage, with all the healing, of course, with the 8 Dawnbringer. Has to get the Nidalee in the right spot as well. Look at how close this lobby is to Frodan. From 2nd all the way down to 6th is just a matter of 3 HP. Delicious Milk way on top, and everybody else very close right now.
Right, there's only one clear person that's not going to die at the end of Stage 5. It is Delicious Milk. Ramkev watching Jack's fight more than his own as Becca is dealt critical damage. She is now down to single digits. She might go in 8th place. Spencer takes the loss. Aegon down. 4 players all on their last life, and Ramkev's Nidalee trying to finish the job against Spicy Appy's Akshan, and we'll get the job done. I eat my words. Nidalee 3 carry seems to be completely viable, especially if you have 8 Dawnbringers.
I think that's a little bit part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
8 Dawnbringers might help. Yep. Meanwhile, the other half of Peepo Riot, besides Becca, GV8, 5 Spellweaver. Goes all the way up to that. He does love playing these AP comps, loves playing around a bomb right now. This is it's a pretty strong version of it. The double Trap Claw Teemo as well is interesting because that'll give the Zyra a lot of time to get some casts off as well because it's going to block 2 spells. That does stack, I believe. And also just a Spellweaver buff on Teemo is going to be nice too. It's a little bit weird, but it's okay. I don't know if it's quite good enough for a top 4 though. It's going to be close.
What we shall see. This Viego is unable to do anything because of the 2 spell shields, and so Ramkev's going to take a very heavy loss. And this... Oh, actually, hold on. This Nidalee might be able to at least clean up a couple of units, and it did. That was huge. Ramkev now is at like a life total, or I think he might be able to get a better position. Oh, he's at 9. Everything is so close. Everything.
I know.
From 2nd to 7th place is just 15 HP. That's 1 fight on Stage 6.
Delicious Milk has taken a loss as well, so he is not unbeatable at this point in the game either. So that 1st place might be up for grabs yet as well. I mean, Delicious Milk, obviously, if he gets 1st, that's 2 firsts in a row already today, which would be an amazing start. Looks like a top 4 guaranteed either way, but not unbeatable. Nice Shroud for GVA. That's always something you're happy to see at this point in the game.
That is incredible. Shroud is one of the highest win rate items in the game, only if you're able to survive to this part, largely due to the fact that it can swing fights entirely. He doesn't have Volibear 2. He also could probably think about a 6th Spellweaver, because you could replace the 4th Abomination unit in Callista, which is just nothing. But the 6th Spellweaver, I believe, is a Ziggs, and that's just very, very unlikely to find at this stage of the game. Given that he's at level 9, he's actually much more likely to find Heimerdinger than he is a single Ziggs, which is very amusing to me.
True. We saw him spot another Teemo as well, but at 17 HP, you can't pick that up. That's basically reducing yourself to 1 life guaranteed. Slams a Shroud onto the Volibear. And is he going to be able to beat his teammates, Spicy Appies?
Yeah, it's a free-for-all at this point. But neither, in the best-case scenario, one of these players wins by 1 or 2 units. But in this case, it looks like GV straight up eliminates Spicy Appies. Just way too convincing of a victory. And so Spicy Appies ends up taking a 6th place. Jack out in 7th. Aegon survives. And now Milk gets a peek at the tome. First has to pick his armory. Bloodthirster for his Jacks. Finds a Nightbringer possibility. Oh no, just goes for Ranger. He wants to go for Rangers? I'm down.
I mean, he's got the Varus on the bench. Yeah, why not? Okay, so now you just place that. Who do you put the Ranger thing on? Maybe,
Jax.
Jax? Oh, yeah, of course. Yep.
Jax is a possibility. I wonder if he wants the magnetic remove at all, because I don't know how much we want to actually make Jax hold these double trap claws. Okay, you can give Bloodthirster an Action. That's fine. But Jax with Bloodthirster versus an Akshan 1 is a real threat. I think maybe in his mind, Akshan has better scalability. Nice little move to dodge Zephyr. Jax just a support unit. And he can use his magnetic remover for Zephyr in the late game. So he's actually kind of created an option that's very flexible from him. And I like it. Milk's on point. And like his double trap claw is going to prevent his Aphelios from getting hit up by a Doombringer. And now all of a sudden, Aphelios is kind of online and Akshan's going to the back. But just so much pressure coming from this Teemo. Teemo's slowing everything down and bursting.
I mean, I think Spellweaver Teemo is a little bit underestimated, because he casts very quickly. So he's going to get a lot of... he's going to be able to stack that AP bonus pretty quickly. And he also just gets the extra AP, right? So it's something we don't see too often. But we have our top 4. Ramkev out in 5th. Still pretty close. A tie on HP for 1 and 2 right now, actually, between Milk and GV8. But with the way that last round went, it's kind of looking like a GV8's game to lose at this point, unless something changes.
Milk has to change his tech. He has no Mystics in, and he's going up against AP-heavy situations, so
yeah,
needs to figure out a way to get that in. But he did sell the Gwen, does not have the Mystics. He's just utilizing the fact that he has quality units in play. Dodges the Zephyr. Oh, did not. He swapped it the last second. No. And he gets his right Aphelios Zephyr. Spencer coming for that top 1 with the Tristana 3 and the Rast, and Tristana is popping off. It comes down to these 80 carries. But with the double spell shield, Aphelios might be able to turn this fight around, but not able to get the cast to finish off all the units, and Milk is now down to his last life. It really is anybody's lobby here.
Yeah, 1 HP. Good finish for Team Aegon.gg either way, with Aegon in 4th and now Spencer guaranteed a top 3, so they turned things around from the way their first game went. Now it's up to Delicious Milk to try to live against GV8 here and Spencer, but... it's looking like a third. We'll see. A little bit bad luck putting yourself right in the path of the Zephyr, and then your Diana doesn't cast that last round. Have to keep an eye on the sidebar for that. Now on board with GV8. He found his Volibear too, as you can see.
And you could just see that GV8 just acknowledges the power of what his comp is trying to do, which is just, get big damage through Teemo and Fiddlesticks. I think a lot of people think about Heimerdinger. They tunnel on him, saying he is the carry at the late game. But Teemo, Fiddlesticks also put out heavy amounts of punish, prioritizing the Shroud onto the middle because he wants to catch Kennen and Lulu. Does end up getting it, but he gets his Volibear's effort. Is that trade-off worth it?
It's going to be tough. I mean, that Teemo needs to get some shrooms in the back line there. He got a little bit of damage in. Okay, and yeah, the Abomination comes in. That actually wasn't very close at all, was it? I expected it to be a little bit quicker, but is this a double kill?
It looks like it. GVA is able to get the win versus Spencer. Milk ends up going down to the Ghost. And Team Liquid's Grand Vice 8 able to close out round number 2 with a win.
Yeah, that's a strong performance from GVA, and I always love him playing. Remember the early in the game he slammed that trap claw as like his second item, I think it was, and he's just so good at that. Is finding ways, especially in the AP tree, a lot of times Heimerdinger, but also sometimes Teemo as well, to get some of those core items built early on, and then just really good best board, really good positioning to come healthy into the late game, and then have results like that. It's impressive to watch.
Yep, very much so. And I think that, you know, we talked a little bit about what Toma traits can do. I feel like when the Radiant Blessing is a Toma traits, it's almost kind of the equivalent of a spatula carousel. It just feels like everybody gets peaks at very interesting stuff. And based off the way the tome works, I'm not sure if it was hard confirmed by Mort himself, but I do believe that you get 2 traits that's related to your board and 2 random traits. So you get some really, really interesting stuff when you open up that tome. That being said, I loved a lot of what I saw. You saw 8 Dawnbringer, you saw some unusual Spellweaver reach, you saw 4 Rangers in a composition with, like, you know, Jax or coming into the mix. It's very, very unusual to see this kind of stuff, but, you know, when it ends up dropping every so often, it's a sight to behold.
Indeed it is. And as we just saw, Team Peepo Riot able to take first in that lobby. That brings their pool play earnings up to $100. Second place in the standings overall, although things are going to change quite a bit as the day goes on. Spicy Appy's taking a 6th in that last game, so not contributing too many points. But either way, it's definitely a better result than they had in game number 1, where I believe they went like 7th and 6th. So to have a result like this in game 2 is pretty solid. Yeah,
very much so.
Raditz wins Lobby 1. Lobby A.
Soulcat for Econ getting a dub in Lobby A. I'm interested to see what the comp that he played. Solus coming back with a top 2, and then HJW and Nubao, which I believe this combination means that every team had 1 player in the top 4 and 1 player in the bottom 4. Which makes me interested on how the results are. I think Ray and Broccoli, Soulcat for Econ, clearly came in on top, getting 1st and 5th. Right. But everybody else is just a step or 2 behind, and I wonder what that does for the point standings.
Well, that is their first place at the tournament, so 50 for pool play for them, and it places them 5th overall. It feels like, I suppose, you know, the positions aren't going to move a whole lot if you have 1 person in the top 4, 1 person in the bottom 4. It depends on what those specific places are. Let's look at the overall standings. You can see Wide Peepo Happy, 71 points, the first team to break the 70-point mark. Peepo Riot and We Are going 8th. Pretty close behind, but yeah, you can start to see some of the teams pulling away from the pack a little bit.
Yeah, for now. Of course, all of it is contextualized by half the teams aren't playing right now. The standings tomorrow will be a lot more interesting to kind of see. Wide Peepo Happy, you know, being at 71, and then Team Goo being at 28. It's a very giant gap, but we got a lot more TFT to play. We're not even halfway through the competition of group stages right now.
Yeah, that's right. It's awesome. I love Giant Slayer series. I love that we're getting a team tournament for this one. We're 2 games down, 2 more games to go, I believe. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will see the final 2 games of the day and see what the points look at the end of it, see who's able to climb a bit. We'll see you then.
Fantasy TFT is a free-to-play stock market game where you compete against other TFT esports fans in real time to earn prizes during the live broadcast. Click on the Open tab to see which contests are going on. After joining a contest, you'll start off with shares of each TFT competitor, as well as additional cash to buy competitors with. From there, you'll see a list of TFT competitors and a graph indicating their current prices. Now, this is where your knowledge of TFT comes in. During the matches, pay attention to each player because you can change your mind at any time. The price of each competitor will change based on their performance. Like how someone is playing, buy their shares. Think someone made a mistake, sell them before their stock goes down. Buy low and sell high to maximize your score, and if you can outtrade everyone in the market, you'll walk away with a prize.
Welcome back, everybody, to Giant Slayer series presented by Wisdom. DoA and Frodan here with you. 2 games down, 2 to go as the teams race for points to try to get the highest standing possible going into our final week 2 weeks from now. It's a nice long tournament, Frodan, and we've seen some pretty interesting stuff today already, haven't we?
Yeah, totally. I think last game was the really interesting one in Lobby B in particular. We got to see a lot of people get double emblem traits to really go for some stretch goals. Grand Vice was able to get that win. That was very, very cool with the Teemo 2. But, you know, one thing that's really kind of interesting is just showing how the meta is evolving. Yes, there are some powerful reroll compositions, but people are really trying to flex with some unusual carries. And also, one thing I noticed that I couldn't really talk about much because it just happened so quickly was that Becca actually had Lucian 3 and went 8th place.
Oh,
which is just really unusual that, you know, a 3-star 4 cost could be that unimpactful to at least dramatically turn your chances around. But at the same time, it could have just been that she stabilized when she was just too low HP and ended up just taking a little bit too much damage. But yeah, like Lucian 3 going 8th place, it's not something you see every day.
It's one of those games, too, I bet, where, you know, we didn't see it a lot, but you just find Lucian after Lucian, but you just lack your front line at that point. You can't find, like, a 2-star of anything, and then it's a bit of feels bad, right? Because, yeah, you have Lucian 3, but you just can't win any rounds because he just gets ganged up on too much. But I was looking at the Lobby A comps over the break a little bit. That lobby, the one that Raditz won, was one with an Aphelios board, actually. But the crucial thing there was that he went for 4 Mystics because the second and third place boards were both Vel'Koz boards, right? So good anti-ability power tech at the end of that one to win it for Raditz. We are back on board with Raditz in Lobby A right now for game number 3. And interesting, another tiers start with a bunch of gloves as well.
All right, well, here we go. We are in game number 3 of Lobby A, hopping on board with Raditz. Looks like Solus may have disconnected by accident. We'll hope that we can get him back in. Yeah, really interesting stuff also happening in this lobby. New Battle got a Galio 3, which has actually been nerfed. It's not always you see a 4-cost 3-star that gets nerfed in TFT because it's just rare to see them ever pop up. But Galio, I believe, was nerfed as a 3-star, which is pretty unusual. But either way, some fun stuff that's going on. I wonder if we're going to see something like that today.
I wonder. I mean, one of the things that some of the developers for TFT have talked about recently was trying to prevent tanks from having the ability to go infinite. And that kind of means that they have the right items where they just simply can't be killed, you know, in various lobby where you have, you know, the anti-AP stuff or the anti-crit stuff, and then you have some source of healing, and they just simply don't die. And Galio 3 was one of the most prime offenders there. Aurelia was up there for a little while too. So there's been like an effort lately through patches to prevent those tanks from going infinite again. Just kind of watching the players here to see if what's going on with the remake situation, if we're going to do that. Looks like players agreeing to it, so we'll have to wait for our admins to see what's up. Yep, right. Looks like that's what it's going to be. So, going to have to wait a little bit before Lobby A gets back online again. Again, this does happen every once in a while. We're all playing remote. Sometimes computers decide that they don't want to participate, and they're just going to shut off or something like that. Happens to the best of us, Frodan.
Yeah, and I think it's a good nod to show that like the TFT community is pretty tight knit. These are all friends, right? They're not trying to like be cutthroat and like I need every edge of the competition. Right. You disconnected. Oh, was it because you didn't get the starting item you wanted? You know, there's like some players that might end up calling that into question. So if we're able to remake that, which I don't know if there's a choice anymore at this point. Like all the players have left the lobby, so the competitive integrity of that result is it has been completely nuked. But yeah, it's great to see that the players are willing to, you know, ensure that everyone gets a fair shake, especially because it's a duos tournament. Like, how bad does it feel for even Kurum, right? Solus' teammate in that case. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, the players tend to kind of have each other's backs in these kinds of events too, where it's like nobody wants to see anyone lose because of something that's outside of their control. So I do like the honorable decision to restart the lobby, and so we'll get back into that in a moment to see, you know, who takes it, basically. But hopefully, more than anything, that computers are all working again, and we can get the lobby started quickly.
Yep, totally. And I think another question would be, does Fantasy TFT remake? I think people were like, okay, I'm going to make my first purchases, but we didn't see any information that would indicate who is going first, right? Because we barely even saw what happened on stage 1-2. So, you know, I'm down for the remake. overall. So now that we have like a second or two to kind of talk about it, how do you feel about where today's meta is progressing? Is there anything that's like impressing you in particular, DoA, or is there anything that caught your eye just in general?
I think the way the meta is progressing a little bit is people are looking less at the Tristana reroll, because I think there's this assumption that somebody's going to be trying it, and so like why bother, if you don't want to be that person. I think the other part of it too is just the ability to be flexible and respond to what's on your lobby is at a premium that I don't think we've ever seen before in TFT, where there's so many different ways to respond to what you see that it's a bit dizzying at times for sure, but it gives a lot of opportunities for skill expression with the players too. And so I think what we're seeing is a lot of those adaptations where you don't necessarily need to go for a traditional quote-unquote build. You can just play something that's going to be a strong board in your lobby. And speaking of lobbies, we're back in with Lobby A again. Hopefully disconnect free and we can get this thing going.
All right, so once more, but with feeling. Raditz is going to start things off with the sword.
All right.
And it seems like Ray has pretty much turned a new chapter in terms of his journey as a top challenger player, kind of mixing in the AD with the AP, showed his versatility in game 1 playing the AP tree with Teemo 2, no Heimerdinger, and then game number 2 able to take a first place. So second and first, very good start. Ray with a little joke, think my items suck, I think I got to restart computer. Of course, a little tease and jab at Solus.
Yep. Well, Raditz has had a great day. Second place in game number 1, first place in game number 2. Trolling the rest of the lobby in game number 3. It doesn't get much better. Couple of skirmishers to start things off with, and sword and belt are 2 great items to find early. A bow as well. Wow, this is just like the beginning of a lot of different good components, good items to slam.
Yep.
Nothing in particular right here, but you can make a lot out of this stuff.
Yeah, very much so. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the other items around. Broccoli starting off with a Legionnaire build. Wondering if we're going to see any of those one-cost rerolls. Probably not. It's not really a super reliable composition unless you get the overwhelmingly good start for it. But based off of Raditz's situation here, it does look like he's going to lean more towards the AD. He doesn't have any items that feel slammable, but he does have really quality units. Not going to pre-level, though, because he wants to hold on to all of it, which I can get behind. Doesn't want to sell the Nidalee.
Yeah, you can go a bunch of different directions with this. You've got the Dawnbringer direction, you've got the Sentinels direction. So it's, you wait to see if you maybe get a couple pairs here. He's going to end up going skirmishers early on, which is pretty popular. You can add in Sentinel to that if you manage to find like an Aurelia, and then you can throw in the Pike as well when you're level 4. So it's the makings of what could be a strong board too. Decides to swap it up a little bit, 3 skirmisher, 2 Dawnbringer. I think again, just like doing everything he can to capitalize on that Nidalee, because she's such a strong unit early on.
Agreed. Nidalee might be the strongest 3 cost on stage 2 alongside Yasuo and Ribbon. These seem to be some of the most powerful, but part of the reason why I like Nidalee is because she can win that head-to-head very easily with just her constant dodges. Just the amount of effective HP that she gains from one dodge is pretty significant, and you start rattling off like almost half the attacks are dodges. Almost feels like it doubles her life, and it's just very, very, very powerful in stage 2.
Yeah, like imagine a world where like Nidalee's trait like that was a whole trait that a bunch of units got. Oh wait, that existed. It was called Yordle in set number 1, where you got to see your entire board dodge like that.
Yeah, and have they done something like that since, DoA?
Nope, no, they have not.
Because it is toxic to the game. Absolutely, straight up.
It was good times though. While good times for me because I love playing Yordles, but I can see why it didn't come back.
Taking a look at Broccoli, who has a very unusual early blue buff slam on, but it's on brand, which makes sense. And seeing if he can maybe lean towards the Abomination start, just trying to play best board until he gets to that point. I think that how Broccoli gets to A-bomb isn't important. It's really about making sure he preserves his HP so he doesn't feel like he's in a very bad spot. His board is pretty subpar, but we'll see if maybe he goes up against another weak board. Oh my goodness, that's a very strong start for Brachiosaurus.
That is not a weak board at all. That is a very good start for Bert for sure. Gets the Skirmisher, the Sentinels online. That's exactly what you want to see if you're any player really. And yeah, the Olaf 2, the Udyr 2, and even the Runins on Olaf for good measure. That's looking really good for Bert.
Very much so. I think the bird stocks are climbing. That is a very, very powerful start for him indeed. And rightfully so, because, I feel like those 2-star skirmishers will just allow him to preserve what feels like, 40 HP throughout all of stage 2 and 3.
Yeah, for sure. Broccoli, though, still, not a bad start. You've got the items that are going to build to components that are going to be useful later, theoretically, if you go for the Abomination kind of thing. 2 Callistas, you're really just looking for a Nunu at this point. No pre-level, though, to maybe get that higher chance of finding the 3-cost, opting for the interest gold instead. So just kind of doing that, also kind of accepting the lost streak and just kind of gaining some econ for now.
Yeah, I like using Yasuo as an item holder a lot. I think that I say this like every cast I can because I'm trying to appreciate it while it's happening. But I think Yasuo might be my favorite 3-cost in this set. And we talk a lot about how we wish 3-cost can make a little bit of a comeback, especially in set 4. There's a big emphasis on Chosen, so it was like dominated by the 4 costs. In set 3, it was like all the rerolls at 1, 2, and 3 costs, but not really the 3 costs.
Yeah.
And so in set 2 is really the era of tier 3 units with like Kindred, for example, or Zir. And people kind of reminisced in having a meta that was like that. We are in that meta right now, where like we have very strong, versatile tier 3 carries with Nidalee and Yasuo in particular, who are super flexible with item holding, but also can just pop off themselves. So in the end, I think I'm gonna really miss set 3 or set 5 Yasuo.
Yeah, I think 5.5 in general is trending in a very good direction for a lot of those reasons, and mostly just because you can play carries at nearly every cost in the game right now. I mean, if one cost is still a little bit iffy, I mean, yeah, the Callista comp is out there, but aside from that, there's legit carries at every cost, which is something that we don't see as often in TFT. So when it exists, it's fun. You get a lot of options. On board with New Ball now, 3 Skirmisher, 3 Sentinel, 2 Legionnaire. Talk about strong boards. This is definitely one that qualifies. Even has the Trap Claw as well for that little bit of extra sustain.
It's a very, very powerful board because he has a Irelia 2. And Irelia 2 is a unit that just doesn't die on stage 2 if you give her any tankiness. I guess he doesn't have a completed item on her, so it's not that great. That's like he is watching DQA's fight a little bit closely to see how that transpires. And actually, he does go up against HJW, who has slammed 2 items onto the Nidalee, which actually does make a pretty significant difference. These are 2 very powerful items to slam. So it ends up taking a loss. So despite the fact that he hit Irelia 2 and is collecting additional ones potentially here, he does seem like he's leaning more towards the Assassin tree as he's holding onto this Nocturne. He doesn't want to make gold. We'll see how much he chooses to go for that. Personally, in this spot, I feel like I wouldn't prioritize the board strength. I probably would just kind of lose and try to make econ, but I don't know what to sell, right? I don't know what to sell in the process for this.
I mean, it might be one of those situations where you just don't sell. You just kind of accept that you aren't going to be able to hit the econ like you'd prefer in exchange for, improving the board state a little bit later. We'll see what Kurum X is doing now as Brawlers. He's got his own Olaf carry. Seems like a good amount of Olaf 2s in the lobby right now. And then the Yasuo, no items, but you're kind of expecting Olaf 2 to kind of do all the work this time. And the Dragon Claw Slam early, that's kind of interesting. Don't see that very often.
Yeah, Dragon Claw Slam early with the Titans resolve makes me think that Kurum wants to lean more towards the Abomination tree. It could just be the fact that he got 2 cloaks and a lot of defensive items. So a rough start for Kurum. He's very open to a couple of different trees here, as you can just tell by his bench. He's got a mix of everything here going on. Skirms, Nightbringers, some Sentinel action. But without clear direction, I anticipate that Kurum is just going to take a very harsh beating in stage 3 because he has no gold to roll. Like, here's another thing. He's got some good pairs, right? He has like this Yasuo pair, but he's got no gold. And if he's going to sell to 20 here, he probably has to sell his Yasuos, which really stink.
Yeah. It's one of those caught between a rock and a hard place situations where you both need the gold and also need the units on your bench. And you know that the moment you sell something to make gold, you're going to hit the other things that would have made that something you just sold good. So it's a tough situation to be trying to avoid that situation, yet know you need to make some sort of move, or you just kind of keep losing HP precipitously. 2 Rakans. Huh.
That's huge.
interesting,
The fact that
yeah.
he can hit Rakan 2 naturally. Oh, he ends up selling. Okay, so he doesn't want Rakan 2.
I guess not, yeah.
Okay, finds a Nunu. Did you want the Nunu here?
I mean, if Abomination was a plan, you definitely want the Nunu. I think if he doesn't pick it up, that might be a little bit telling. It doesn't look like
Yeah,
he's super
it
interested in
means
yeah.
it's not on his radar.
Yeah.
This is such a tough spot here from Kurum. I've definitely played positions similar to it, and it's very tricky to understand what to do because it feels like the game gives you one direction, then all of a sudden it shifts the direction because it drops you certain things like champions or items. But yet, at the same time, despite the game nudging you in one direction, it feels like you can't commit because then you close certain doors and you don't want to commit this early on 3-1. It legitimately might be a situation for Kurum where he's waiting for the Radiant item to give him direction.
Could be. I think at this point, you're probably thinking Sentinels more than anything else. Not just because you have some Sentinels, but you've got good defensive items that could get moved over to an Aurelia that would be pretty impactful. And then the other items, you could just start to find Lucian stuff, you know? Or Rakan stuff if you find that a little bit earlier. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I would say that if he finds a Radiant Titans, then Kurum can actually play the fabled double Titans Jax, which is a build that I heard is very strong, but I have not really seen it more than once, and the person just landed top 4. So I guess I need a bigger sample size to see if that's the case.
I have not seen that one either. I'm curious how that would do. On board with DQA now, as it looked like he was trying to get a bit of a Tristana board going. Currently in last place, though, but a lot of times this board will take a lot of HP loss early on. You've got the Kennen 2 with the Morellos, so that's a nice start. Has the Tristana 2, just lacking a couple items for that. And there's the win. And he has the sword to build a Bloodthirster with for the Tristana. So close to having an extremely strong board and starting to move back up through the rankings a bit.
This lobby complexion is starting to be really interesting. HJW and Burtosaurus are streaking at 100, meaning that they never played each other, which is quite unusual. And if it gets to the point where both HJW and Burt never play each other across stage 3, you're going to have two players who are so rich that they might be able to push their tempo lead and put so much pressure on the rest of the lobby that 4 players are dead, and then there's like 4 players alive at like 40 HP or more, and then they play out an entire stage together as if it's almost like the lobby got cut in half. And that's something that's interesting to pay attention to in particular, because I wonder how that works in duo environments, right? Do some people just say, hey, if I run into my partner and crush them by accident, I'm sorry, I just got to play my best board. And that kind of dynamic is something that you don't see on ladder. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when we've talked to players last week about some of this, there were moments, I can't remember which duo it was, but they deduced that it was extremely likely that they would play each other, and so the one that was doing better took out his fully itemized Lucian 2, I think it was, to try to lose that round and just keep his opponent in it a little bit more and try to have them both kind of trend higher in the overall finishes. So players are definitely thinking about that, and if you can tell, you know, later on in the game that it's really likely you're going to play against your opponent, you can definitely modify your board a little bit to try to shift things the way you want them to go points-wise.
Well, I believe that was Ramblin' and Robin that were doing that specific dynamic that you were talking about, which ended up being a huge impact onto that game, which is really, really cool to see. We're hopping on board with Solus as a DQA. We know exactly what he's trying to do. Reroll the rats. Solus looks like he's once again item holding for a Vel'Koz, as we talked about Yasuo being a very flexible item holder. Jewel Gauntlet and Shojin is the magic recipe for most AP carries right now, although some might prefer a couple of different itemization points. And we'll see if Solus can find a way to piece together a top finish here, similar to what he did in the previous game where he was able to get second. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly nobody really all the way out, it looks like, yet. Even, you know, players down at the bottom have some options. There's Raditz, though. Found the Riven 2 with some pretty awesome Riven items. No healing yet, but that Deathblade is certainly going to do a lot of damage along with the Rudins.
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 of the 3 items that people really look for alongside either Last Whisper or Bloodthirster. Like, those core 4 items are something that you can really piece together on Riven. And without a lot of armor in the early game from a lot of sources, not many people are playing things like Ironclad, then you can just get away with that Last Whisper.
Right. So no real useful AP stuff. Obviously already has the Shojins there, so it's going to be a tanky item. I think Rosethorn Vest is a great option if you need something to just give your front line some sustain. And it does a good amount of damage itself, too. Like, there's a lot of times where some carries throughout the game might just, like, kill themselves by hitting your Rose Thorn Vest tank too many times.
Yeah, and I think even if Solus had a really good AP item, I would probably advise him to not do that, because then if he drops more, like one more AP component, then all of a sudden he's going to have the same problem that we saw, what happened last game, where you just have too much of the same kind of items and you don't have enough item slots. If this was, League of Legends Summoner's Rift and you could hold up to 6 items on a champion, it's a different story. But you really have to budget the balance between frontline and backline. So I really like the Rose Thorn Vest pick, and I think it's a very wise decision from Solus.
100%. Yeah, takes a not so bad loss against DQA there. Still a fairly decent amount of HP overall in the lobby. But we'll see what Wolves bring now. This is a point where, yeah, level 7. Okay, level 7 a little bit early. Going to get one more shop just naturally to try to hit one of those 4 costs, theoretically the Vel'Koz that we talked about.
Yeah, it's okay to do it. You don't really waste that gold. If you do end up over-leveling on a PV round that's off-cadence, or like a different off-cadence round, you might waste that 4 gold, but you get that 2 gold back anyways, so... Looks like Holes is going to get the first peaks that we were talking about. Ends up finding a redeem spat. This is really particularly interesting if he's able to find a way to incorporate that and play 6 redeem Vel'Koz. But the key to everything will be to find Vel'Koz. He could also use Karma as a redeem spat holder if he's not able to find AP units. Sees a rel, absolutely wants to pick that up as well.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of an awkward spot regardless, though, because his board is going to be replaced entirely by 1-star units.
Redeemed on the Yasuo, which is going to be useful for now. He can always change a little bit later. That early Gwen is going to give his team a little bit more durability, but yeah, a lot of 1-stars. It looks like not the strongest board overall. So finding a lot of redeem, but not the one he wants quite yet. But that redeem Yasuo might be able to survive for a bit here.
It's just so many pairs, right? He has he has 5 pairs that I've identified so far, and there might be one on the board that I'm not seeing. Cause I think he has 2. Yeah, I think he has 2 Nautiluses there. Yep. So quite unusual, but like a spot that I think is not too unfamiliar to people who have tried to play the AP tree and like main it, so to speak. You end up having a scenario, well, actually really humorous.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. That Rose Thorn
just kill themselves. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is we know, Solus was scouting, saw the assassin board out there, and that's a really great tech against the assassins, is just make them hurt themselves, I'm kind of surprised he won that round as well, but it definitely shows the strength of that defensive item. Good choice.
Wow, a second Gwen at level 7, very unusual. I think we can go to 6 redeemed right here and play the Karma. We do have the Invokers thanks to the Syndra as well.
This is kind of interesting.
It's only Varus that would be the 6th redeem at this point. Is it even worth? He's thinking about it. He's like, maybe. Karma holds the items.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Trap Claw. Yep. All right. I like it. I don't think it's a bad board. I think Karma's certainly fallen off a little bit. There's a lot of movement in the game right now, so you have a lot of units dodging Karma shots, which is one of the reasons why we don't see quite as much Karma at the moment. But since he hasn't found the Vel'Koz yet, might as well go with it. You can always transfer that over if you find the Vel'Koz later and make like a redeemed Gwen or something, which is really strong.
Yeah, entirely reasonable. I still think that in the end you're looking for Garen above everything else for the redeemed spat holder, but
sure,
totally fine. Also, Fiddlesticks is a really, really powerful one. The Garen is only if you stick to the Karma, though, which is kind of weird based off the way that works. Usually it's like a double redeem spat scenario. But even then, you're not supposed to go 9 redeemed. It's quite nuanced, and I'm sure that Solus understands the map out. So we'll see if he ends up going down that direction.
Yeah, checking out Newbow's board. He was a player playing the Assassins earlier. Has the Radiant QSS on the Nocturne, which gives you a lot of extra CC immunity, and I believe a bit of attack speed, if I remember right. So a good fit for Nocturne, because you generally want to have one of your items increase his survivability, and things like the Radiant RFC, the Radiant QSS, do a good job of that.
Yeah, I would say that, you used the appropriate word. It's a good fit. It's not the best possible thing for Nocturne.
Yeah.
Because you want damage on Nocturne. And yes, you get the 40 attack speed, as you're mentioning. You get the ability to basically be immune to CC until overtime. But in the reality of things, is Noob Owl's Nocturne doesn't deal a lot of damage. And this is a really concerning spot to be in if you're Noob Owl.
Yeah. You're going to want to find probably another item for the Nocturne or so. And to be fair, there's a lot of games where you're not going to get best in slot. You're going to have to make decisions like this where it's like, well, QSS is my best option right now. And, you know, those are the games where you're looking for a top 4 and so you can do. Thinking about
the okay.
Bow. Huh.
So part of me wondered if Noob Owl wanted to go for a KO out, but I think the pivot across is just too hard because he does have the Legionnaire, but he doesn't have the front line for it. So I think he's just stuck in this this tree. That's part of the problem with Assassins is that it kind of requires a commitment, and your pivot options aren't very good. And that's one criticism against the comp that I think is completely legitimate. Because I thought about it for a second, I was like, no, there's just no way. Yeah. And even just like going down the line, the more I thought about it, the less it was going to happen.
Yep. Kale, a lot of times, you know, you can put all the attack speed in the world on her and put a great front line. It seems like she still never ascends, so it's always a hard choice to decide to put your hope in Kale. Ooh, the Teemo, though.
What is happening? He's playing Teemo in Rangers? What?
I guess. I mean, it reduces attack speed, so you can almost think of Teemo as a defensive item, you know, essentially. He's like a sand soldier that does a little bit of damage, but more importantly, just kind of slows the damage that's coming in from the other side.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's a rental.
Really cool tech. Well, I mean, if he's not buying the second Teemo, then I agree.
Yeah,
he ends up winning, so he buys the Teemo, and what this actually does is it puts him at 39, which is in direct range of the Radiant Blessing.
That might just be brilliant, actually.
Well, it might be.
Maybe.
I think might is the key word here. He does end up getting 2 components. And the Teemo does have the Invoker synergy, which helps his Aphelios cast a little bit sooner. Finds a Heimerdinger.
Whoa,
there's just no way we pivot across to AP, right? He's just going to play this Teemo as a support unit. And I like what you said. You know, Teemo is a very strong unit. If you're able to get him online, he finds a 2-star Teemo. Now, you mentioned that he's a really good at slowing attack speed. If people like Frozen Heart, well, let me tell you, Teemo doubles the effectiveness of a Radiant of a Frozen Heart because it's 25 for Frozen Heart, it's 50 for a Teemo. And if you know the lobby is very slanted towards attack damage composition, this Teemo might be just a brilliant tech. I love this coming out from Radiants. It's just something that I haven't really seen much of. I've heard whispers of maybe Teemo is just underplayed in every kind of composition, period. But I haven't seen someone fully commit to playing it in, say, in the Aphelios comp. And now he's just going to use the Rascal's gloves onto the Teemo.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing is that it looked a little bit like a rental early on, but it wasn't at all. Yeah, finds the Teemo too like that. And what can you say? I think you might be right. I think maybe it is a little bit undervalued. It's a scary unit because it costs you health, right? But certainly working out here. Finds an item remover. That's kind of interesting.
Zephyr and Morello. Morello for the
look at these items.
The Volibear. And then finds a Gwen too. So he's just finding the 2-star legendaries at this moment.
Yeah. I really like the items on the Teemo as well because the Bloodthirster you might not think is like as useful, but at the same time you get a nice shield from it, so it's a good defensive item even if you're not gaining from it totally. But let's look at Kurum's board here. All right, yeah, Sentinel's a little bit everything.
There's a lot of things going on in this lobby here, DoA. DQA hit 3-star Tristana, and Noob Owl hit 3-star Nocturne. A lot of people are getting online. Radius chose not to make a Morello. I wonder that's going to cost him later on, but maybe the Gwen stack is insane. Who knows? She's a 2-star legendary. Kurum is trying to steal the units here with the Viego and was able to turn that Rakan to help keep his board a little bit alive. Really funny interaction with the Sovereign Domination. But it doesn't seem like he's stable, and Kurum's going to take damage, and he's going to get the Radiant Blessing. He's going to have the hope that his board's able to stabilize here, because this looks like a bot 4 currently on the based off how everything's appearing at the moment.
It certainly does look that way, and we see. I feel like we see more and more Lucian boards end up looking like this in the late game, where it's kind of like Lucian in threes, right? 3 Skirmisher, 3 Sentinel, and then kind of like a splash of a bunch of other traits. And these types of boards can have strong finishes, especially if you start to add second carries in here, like the Aphelios could certainly be. You know, or you end up having a situation where you can add a couple legendaries in at the end, but oh, we might just see. All right, thinking about
what is going on.
Yeah, I feel like this style is a very tough style to navigate because it does live and die a lot on what sort of secondary carries you play and what traits you decide to go for in terms of like the little side synergies. It's tough to play this way for sure.
I'll say he has every single AD carry. He has a 2-star Lucian, a 2-star Aphelios, he has a 2-star Draven in the shop, and he has a Jax and an Akshan. Like, he can do anything.
Yeah.
But, like, what does he want to do? It's the question. If you're not going to pick up this Draven, you sell it. There you go. So he sells that, has the Akshan for the 2 Rangers. He can transition off and play Akshan, Aphelios, carry. New Battle takes a loss, so the Assassin player will help. That's a very big loss for New Battle because Kurum is worried about boards like that because his Aphelios won't stay safe. And so we'll see. We're going to hop on board with DQA. See how the Hellions are doing. Right now, Radiance is on that win streak. Looks like that Gwen itemization is paying off. Gwen's a unit that has gotten buffed, and it is a very powerful unit if you're able to get online. I'm just not entirely sure just what the ceiling is for Ray's composition in particular. DQA dodges it. He's going up against Bertosaurus.
Yeah, DQA versus that the board we were just talking about. Gonna go ahead and scout something else, though. Or rather, go back to his. He's doing a lot of moving around at the moment. Checking out his opponent, Nubal.
He's checking out his teammate, Nubal, trying to see if Nubal can survive. Yeah, Bert takes some pretty critical damage. Doesn't look like Bert's early lead is going to convert to a win here. And in the end, it looks like DQA is in prime position to move into the top 4, kind of scouting around to see what items he can get. At this point, the Shrouds and the Redemptions and the Zephyrs, this is such a high utility composition. Wait, there's also an Akshan with a Deathblade that Kurum got. And Kurum all of a sudden has 2 Akshans with a really powerful item on him.
You know, and Akshan 1 is one of the strongest 1-star 5 costs, I think. So is there a scenario where maybe you make that swap now? The Lucian 2 is really good. I don't know. That's a tough choice. But if you have great items for the Akshan, there might be the temptation there to do it.
I probably would have if he hasn't done it already, and it looks like he might be leaning towards that direction just based off the scout. Solus does have a pretty intimidating, or sorry, HJW has a pretty intimidating AP board. We'll see whether or not DQA ends up switching sides whatsoever, because if he's not in his pool, then he doesn't have to switch. He's purely positioning solely for what looks like to be the Shroud, and it is going up against the Vel'Koz board, so positioning-wise, it's not the best, but the Shroud does end up being something that can compensate for it, and maybe Tristana can kill Vel'Koz before he's able to even shoot.
Oh, definitely can.
Yeah, and that's going to be the fight. DQA is able to just wipe out Solus' board. A really powerful win, and this is what the Tristana board is so good at doing. You mentioned the movement and how it's just able to get behind units, but sad for Rat Owl, Nubal goes out in 7th, unable to get to a top 4.
Nope, doesn't quite make it. I think another honorable shout out we need to make for that Tristana 3 board is the fully stacked Kennen 3 as well. That's going to provide a lot of crowd control. You have the Frozen Heart on it too, so Kennen becomes almost equally as important the later the game goes on if you can get it stacked like that, get it 3-starred. But we're going to keep an eye on Solus' board for now. Kind of like what we expected earlier, where the Redeem Spat ended up on the Gwen long-term. Did find the Vel'Koz 2 to replace that Karma that we saw him using a little bit earlier. Now going up against Kurum, who did swap over for the Akshan.
Yeah, just really wants to get the Akshan going and hoping that he can get Akshan 2. Kurum does end up kind of penetrating through the front line pretty easily, and now it's up to the Vel'Koz to clean everything up. But there's a Lee Sin with a Dragon's Claw and a Redemption keeping everything alive. Solus takes critical damage, now down to his last life.
Yeah.
And Kurum may have bought himself a ticket to the top 4. It's very, very unlikely that that he's going to die here. Actually, no, because we're at the end of stage 5. But I do want to make one note is that ever since Raditz has slammed the double Warmogs on Gwen, it got me really thinking about why that's good. And that's because with each Snip Snap that Gwen does to steal magic resistance and armor, that makes those Warmogs much more powerful.
Oh, yeah.
So I am so intrigued by Radiance's board at this moment. It's something that like I thought about with how to itemize Gwen, and I am really impressed to see how he's able to get to the top 2 from that position. It's down to him and HJW as Candace to take this lobby.
I think you're right. I think you're right on that one, and it's only going to be a matter of time to see if that's correct or not, but it seems that way. I think Solus has a strong board, but to me it just seems like one of those boards that is gonna, it might top 4, but there's an odd chance that you're gonna look at that profile and you're gonna be like, wow, that was a bot 4 board, just because of the strength of some of the other stuff we've got in the lobby. Like, we've got representation from some of the very best boards in TFT. There's even a Karma board. Huh. Wow, yeah, with the Radiant Blue buff. Okay. We haven't gotten a chance to take a look at that board quite as often. We're going to look at Raditz right now. Oh, the Grim Reaper arrives.
Completely outpositioned, and Solus gets shrouded. His Valkyrie's on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like... Oh, well, hold on. The front line is holding on for another caster for Vel'Koz. He does have the Archangel Staff, which does a lot of damage, but no sustain.
Well.
That's going to do it. So the second cast was a miraculous shot, at the but at the same time... Solus ends in 5th place. That might be just the best that he was going to do anyways. We're hopping on board DQA, barely surviving. Has 3 stars across the board. Looking to see if he can improve through a Teemo 2. If he finds the second Teemo, he can use that Nico's. But outside of that, he is just chilling with this board state at the moment. And there's not really much to do. This is kind of the criticism against the Hellions. A lot of people call it an air quote, a low skill comp. And that's because it's pretty much positioning just like this. Maybe you swap to the left, but... not really too much. Just full backlines. You can pull the units to move forward and hope that Tristana jumping to the back is able to do enough. Now, he does position into a Diana. The Shroud does end up stopping it, which is really nice. The Diana move all doesn't get off whatsoever. That's really, really big. But look at that Aphelios spray. The Giant Slayer eliminating a couple of these units. And this is why Aphelios is often said to be counter to Hellions. If he's able to hit a bunch of these units and eliminate them all together. Look at that big spray and pray. DQA takes big damage. And even if he doesn't die here, it looks like he is not able to get Teemo 2 very easily. That Nico might be defunct and has to use only for Lulu 3.
Yeah, I think DQA could certainly take a top 3, but it looked like that Aphelios board has got its number pretty hard. Right now, Raditz and Krimex both on win streaks right now. HJW does find the Lucian too, but it's going to be interesting to see if that's going to keep him competitive. Man, that double Warmogs Gwen is one of the scariest Gwens I think I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, a lot of people theorize that maybe needed to use AP like Blue Buff and Hextech Gunblade, but it looks like the Warbox is just exactly what the Doctor ordered. I like this frontline positioning, trying to see if he can try and use the Lives of Frozen Heart immediately to slow the attack speed off the damage. Carries them, but Diana Moonfall rearranging the entire backline almost cost Kennen his life and popped him out of the Hellion portal, but there's just so much damage. It's really up to Tristana to clean everything up, and it looks like he might just barely be able to do it because the MF comes back as a support unit. It's so close.
Akshan.
And Tristana just barely able to survive.
I thought maybe that Akshan, if he got the full ultimate off, might be able to burn the Tristana down, but that's not the case. What's DQA gonna find here? Going for that Trap Claw maybe, or
Teemo 2? Teemo 2? That's what he's thinking
2
about
would
right
be
now?
bad.
He has
Yeah.
the Nico.
Alright. I was wondering if he was going to value the 2-star over the utility or not, but he went with the 2-star here.
It's the most raw power upgrade that I think he has.
Yeah.
And maybe in this point, he's thinking, I just need a little bit more DPS to ensure that it works. Not to mention, the 2-star of Teemo, it's not super significant in terms of the power. Yeah, of course, it's stronger for sure. But the survivability of Teemo is important, and the repeated cast is going to be what makes or breaks, given how much attack speed comps are still remaining for both Kurum and Raditz. So we're going to see if he's able to get the Shroud in the right position. And it does end up going to the front line, but that Diana is in the right spot for Kurum. And we'll see whether or not the cast is going to have an impact here.
Still a 1-star Akshan for Kurum in the very late rounds. That is a little bit concerning. And you can see why. Yep.
Oh, nothing casted. The Shroud was so big there from DQA, stopped Diana's Moonfall, and everything else just was a chain effect. Diana took out the Aphelios. Quite a very unsatisfying third place for Kuramek, because I feel like he had top 2 set into his sights. But, you know, unfortunate that it takes a loss to a Tristana player that just had the goods.
Yeah.
Now, going back to Radius' board, he does have some very powerful stuff. His board is capped. There's not a single 1-star that I've identified onto his board. Is this the strongest board that Radius has to be able to take down the Hellion player, DoA?
We're going to find out right about now. Shrouds go out.
Zephyr!
Yeah, the Zephyr's huge, but the Teemo on the other side does not get hit as well. And that means the whole back line for Radius gets stunned. Oh, the Aphelios, though, does he get a cast off? He does. That's so much damage. If Tristana's down, I think Raditz has got it. He does. Raditz ends up winning it. Kind of laughing to himself a little bit there, but yeah, that is some hardcore Aphelios damage there.
That was just hardcore outpositioning. He caught the Tristana 3, and when you have the Radiant Zephyr eliminating Tristana for basically the entire game or the entire battle, that's just Ray being able to get the better of DQA. Now, that being said, did DQA like play badly in that spot? I mean, he was randomizing his board. Like he doesn't have Trap Claw, so he was basically just rearranging stuff. So it was pretty much just Ray doing a good job. Good movement and repositioning from DQA, better execution from Raditz. And that's what gets him to first place.
Yeah, very true. I'm really curious to see what the other lobby looks like as well, because we've seen a lot of different stuff. I think that is that's probably the best result I think we've seen from a Tristana board today. Which is kind of weird. I did not expect to be saying that coming into today, but Tristana boards have struggled a little bit. That said, Sold Cat for Econ getting another $50 for the pool play earnings. Raditz on top, and Broccoli placing a couple points as well. They will be able to claim 4th overall here 3 games into the day. And you can see in Lobby B, Ramkev actually ended up taking 1st place. Delicious Milk and Becca, though, still putting on a good performance on the day, 2nd and 3rd there. And then the other team I've been watching, GV8 and Spicy Appies, another rough finish for them. So it's pretty wild over in Lobby B, actually.
Yeah, you know, the Lobby B results, big wins from Might People Happy, very big movement there, but, you know, a crucial win for the Monkey Dogs. Ramkev and I'm Jack, they were the interview that we had at the beginning of the show. They said that they felt like they were being underrated by their players. And a lot of people peg Ramkev as being a top NA player, and yet they don't put him on their top 10 lists. And, you know, I think in some players' books, you know, I think like Esports Law, the president of the Ramkev fan club would have some choice words for everyone who doubts this guy. He's putting on quite a performance. And we have 3 teams tied at a very nice point total at 69 to round out our top 8 here.
Nice. There you go. Well, Wide People Happy continues to dominate. The first team, I think, to break the 70s. Now the first team to break the 80s. Are they going to finish the day with over 90 points? Probably. That's still really high, though. After just one day of play, on the second day of play, yeah.
It's very high for sure. The important thing to measure is the separation between the next highest team that's playing today. And right now, Why People Happy is almost a full first place finish over Bertosaurus's team alongside HJW of We Are Going 8th, which is really big. But at the same time, there is that, you know, that tier between Bert's team in second place all the way down to People Riot with GV8 and Spicy Appies. It's just 4 points. It could be anyone's tournament to go to the top 4. Going into the next week, we'll be able to get the last round of play and see who goes to the top 4 finals.
Yep, that's right. And this is one of the nice things about the tournament, too, because if you're a team that has a rough day, you can always bring it back the next week. Or if you have a great day, you know, you can kind of capitalize on that next week. I love tournaments where you get to see plans and strategies develop week to week. I'm looking forward to whatever team we end up interviewing at the end of the day here. But I can't believe it. 1 game to go already. These days, like, fly by, Frodan.
It does, right? Like, it's 4 games is all you get, and it's very low sample size, so you got to put your best foot forward and hope for the best. I mean, TFT has a lot of variance in it. There's no escaping that. But with 2 players per team, it's almost like you've played 8 games today, right? Because you're trying to, like, work together as a duo, and therefore you have 8 inputs of your scores. It's the last chance for these players to really put a good week under their belts. Also, I do know that some teams are like kind of, doing some fun side wagers on, amongst themselves, like who's going to do better. Like if you don't, like maybe change your username or something for fun, and I think that that kind of rivalry is super fun to watch, not just of course of individual performance, but how the teams are stacking up against each other.
Yeah, we need that in TFT. Good-natured wagers as well, and challenges between players is always fun, especially if it results in somebody's ID at the very top of the NA ladder getting swapped to something totally embarrassing. I'm all for that. So we'll see. That's a good one. Yep. Waiting right now to get into our fourth and final lobby. We'll be jumping over with lobby B because we're kind of flipping back and forth between those two. And, you asked me this question earlier today, so I'm going to ask you this question as we get into Lobby B in our final game of the day, Frodan. What surprised you the most about how the meta has been sort of, like, developing in this tournament so far?
I was really pleasantly surprised about what we just saw from Raditz just now. He put back-to-back first places with boards that I think... I have seen lose a lot, and I think it's positioning diff, I think it's itemization diff, I think it's just a player diff. Ray is killing it, a second first, and thank goodness he is, because Broccoli's not had the great day that he was hoping for, and so he's really putting Soul Calf Recon on his back just for today. But enough about Lobby A. Let's go into Lobby B with the previous winner, Ramkev, one of the most interesting players. Kind of the next coming of Mismatch Socks, so to speak. His perspective on the game is very different from other top challenger players. His input in terms of his raw time spent is a lot less than other people who full-time stream. Ramkev, everyone knows, is not a person that prioritizes ladder results in LP as a definitive way to express your current skill at the game. And Ramkev really makes the opportunities when it counts. He's the player that said, hey, only top 2 from the ladder qualify to regionals. I'm going to get that top 2 spot and finish number 1, putting Soju at number 2, which is very impressive when you think about what was on the line.
Yeah, I mean, that takes such a huge amount of mental fortitude to be able to stay that consistent for that many games, especially when you get to the point where you're losing a lot of LP, for a 5th and below, and then you're just not gaining a whole lot at that point from the top 4. So really requires very consistent play, and Ramkev definitely has that. Has trended towards the AP tree in the past. I haven't looked at what he's been playing as much today, but we'll see what he's ended up with. Gets a bow and a tier, okay, for his starting items. And there's a Riven, all right, so Riven, always a 3 cost that can be used early on if you want to. Don't know if that's going to quite fit into with his board this game, but he does at least find another Dawnbringer in the Kazakhs, so it's an option.
Yeah, Ramkev took a first last game with Nocturne and Assassins. Looks like a pretty straight-up board. It was just 6 Assassins, 5 Revenants, having the Assassin Spat on Fiddle. That is usually the recipe for first place, if you're able to get everything lined up with enough health. But we've also seen Ramkev narrowly miss out when he played that 8 Dawnbringer board. In fact, that was his first top 4 of the day. He got 2 5ths playing the Dawnbringer Nidalee Riven tree. And I wonder if he's going to stick with that again. He does have the early Riven, which a lot of times starts to indicate that people want to lean towards the tree. They type me Riven in chat, they mute all, and then they just kind of re-roll until their heart's content.
Yep.
But I think Ramkev is a much stronger player than that. I don't think he's going to commit to Riven at all until he gets a lot more information.
Kind of depends, too, on what your plan going to the tournament is. If you scouted out the other people in your lobby and you decide this is something that might be a little bit uncontested, then it's something you can maybe force a little bit more often. You don't need to, but you can kind of keep it in mind. I would be surprised, though, because although the Riven boards are strong, it doesn't seem like a lot of people would consider it like a top comp to rely on often. It's like if you hit it, if you manage to find a lot of it, then it can be good, but it seems a little bit trickier to force sometimes.
Speaking of tricky, Grand Vice offered very open components. A belt does end up bringing balance to it because he has an offensive item with Hand of Justice, a very slammable item, but no direction that's being given, as well as a bow, which means that if he takes a belt, he's at least starting to build a potential frontline item. A quick scout around, one person completely open forwarding in Spencer, but a couple of strong boards showing up, including a Locket Slam on a Kazakhs 2. So he's not winning that fight if he ends up matching up against that.
Yeah. So, in the situation, yeah, you can see his positioning for the Assassins right there in case he hits it. Just trying to position in a way where he can maybe take a unit or 2 out, save some HP. running into Olaf too, and Kenna with the Titans. That's not going to get a ton of time to build. It's going to nearly get there, but probably die. So spend some time looking at other boards, it looks like. And
yeah, I feel like
loss.
these two combination in particular, Hand of Justice and Titans, are just extremely flexible. I think people aren't. If you're looking at ways to improve your play, a lot of times what separates, say, Diamond from Masters players or Masters from GM is the ability to recognize when an item is slammable and not. And a lot of times people are not slamming Titans from what I see because they think, oh, I have a bow. I want that to be like a Last Whisper or something.
Right.
Or a Rage Blade. But if you have that vest and you don't have, you can just totally slam Titans and Hodge. And it's a very, very flexible item on many kinds of carries and champions.
Every time I watch a GVA play, I'm like, should I be slamming items earlier? Maybe I'm not. Because a lot of times you find something where it's like you have that bow and that chain vest, and like you're saying, you're looking for your Last Whisper. If you look at the chain vest, you're like, maybe I can build a Sunfire Cape or something because that's a strong item early on, and you wait for Carousel, and then you lose more HP. And you watch GVA play, and he just slams everything, almost like in the order he gets it sometimes. And you're like, oh, this guy knows a lot more about TFT than I do. Maybe I should just try to slam items, then play around the items, solely, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does work, but also GVA's had some, middling results. Last game he took a 6, but he won the previous game. So, he's had some highs and lows. And that's just what comes with TFT. That's what comes with playing in challenger lobbies. It's all about the context. Like, why is he slamming? Does he feel like he has application of it? And right now, Hodge is just very open-ended. We'll see what he ends up taking first off Carousel. Has this tier. He can start leaning towards the A-bomb tree and start maybe leaning into a redemption slam.
Oh, we know he does like to go that A-bomb route pretty often. Speaking of items and stuff, I think one exercise that's really good to do is on like an ult account or something, just play games and slam your item components in the order that you get them, no matter what. And, what it does is it forces you to play with inopportune items and just makes you really good at trying to make that work so that when you get into a game where you're not playing that way and you have to slam items that you wouldn't have normally slammed, you'll have a better sense of like the relative strength and how you can play around it. I did that on stream for a while and it was actually really fun, so recommend.
Are you advocating smurfing?
No, not smurfing. It's a training. Yeah, it's training.
That's right.
Specific
that's right.
item component training. Yep. On board with Becca now, agreed. Skirmisher Legionnaire. A lot of 2-stars, actually, so a pretty beefy board early on.
Yeah, pretty reasonable board state here from Becca, and actually quite strong to pivot into almost anything. So usually you look at the items in this situation, you kind of figure out what you want to do. That's Tristana with pretty decent items, but it's only a 1-star, so not super intimidating. And Becca has, one of the best starts in the game, which is the Skirmishers, 2-star Olaf holding a Sunfire Cape. It doesn't really get much better than that. I will say that her item situation is kind of unusual because it kind of leaned towards an Abomination start, right? You have Ionic Spark and you have a Sunfire Cape. Those are very powerful ways to start off with the Abomination tree. But it seems like she would prefer to go AD, so I'm not entirely sure how she's going to capitalize off this lead. It's a spot where you're hoping that the Krugs gives you items to help you shape your direction.
Right. Krugs will show you the way. For now, at least, she's got 20 gold, so the interest is rolling. And again, you've got that 4, win streak in a row because you've got the strong 2-stars. This Tristana still a 1-star again. Up against your teammate Milk.
Yeah, I wonder if this was intentional. If Becca kind of weakened her board a little bit. I guess it's arguable because she is playing another Lee Sin. But if the possibility of going up against Milk was on the table and she was trying to purposely weaken her board, she did a great job of doing so. Because this ended up might being a narrow loss here for Milk. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Really well done.
Look at that.
Becca, team wide people happy synergy. It clicked.
Yeah, you can see the pop off too. That is exactly what she wanted to have happen.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
it was. I think it was because
Yeah.
the Legionnaire synergy. While it's not super important for the success of her board, it's not irrelevant. And based off how everything was going down, her units did not heal, and everything died at 1-star. So yeah, well done.
I saw Delicious Milk hit the 2-star Tristana immediately after that, and we didn't see his bench or anything like that, but I I mean, I didn't look at his bench during the round, but I almost wonder if it was something where he bought the Tristana after the round started, so it didn't combine until later. That's going a little bit too deep, but finds the Lee Sin as well.
Oh my god, Lee Sin 2? She has a spat, so it's a little bit unusual of what she wants to play. I'm thinking Assassin spat is my first thing.
Assassin Lee Sin is really good. A lot of people like to use that to slow the attack speed in the back line.
I'm actually kind of down to slam it right now, but the problem is Becca has to scout the lobby, and she has to understand like what she's trying to accomplish with it. Because if she plays Assassin Lee Sin, there's two things that she can do. She can full pivot to a Nocturne with no real start with it outside of the Kha'Zix, and it's fine. A lot of people like the Sentinel Skirmisher start for Assassins anyways. The other option is to just play Yasuo, but she still needs a board, and Yasuo has kind of lost a step or two. He's not nearly as dominant and strong as he was a couple patches ago.
I think the other thing is like we were talking about earlier, where she was hoping that the items would show her the way, and they're definitely not doing that right now. So you're still feeling like maybe a little bit too open at this point, but you're getting into the stage in the game where you kind of need to make a commitment. Is she going to be able to beat this Riven? Oh, not quite. Aatrox doesn't turn around in time, and wow.
That was a level 6 diff. That was a level 6 diff, and she was streaking at 100 HP. A lot of people would recommend you level at 6 anyways there. Yeah. And Becca was not able to preserve her streak. She greeted as best as she could. And that was a lot of things, right? Like maybe if she played the Assassins and had the Assassin spat on Lee Sin as a diff, but we'll see. Speaking of, we're going to go ahead and hop into Spencer's POV, who is trying to find the 2-star Hellions to stabilize his board. Finds 2-star Tristana.
Wow. Yeah, 2-star Tristana, 2-star MF. You saw him grabbing other 2-stars like Soraka out of the pool just to kind of like narrow the pool down a little bit. Sells Dilution. You don't need it really at this stage in the game anyway. You can try to find one later on if you desire to. Although with the Tristana board, now if you're re-rolling rats, you don't really need it anyway.
Yeah, and so Spencer is keeping tabs on Milk, and this is what you really want to do. If you're a contested player on a reroll composition, or just a contested player in general, you have to always keep tabs on the opponent that is taking your units, so you can understand the flow of the lobby.
Yeah.
But, you know, Milk's not... He's kind of playing, like, win streak style. He's number 1 in health right now, and he looks like he's in a pretty decent spot with flex AD items, and we know that Milk is more than capable of taking these late AD compositions all the way to a top 1 as he did at the very beginning of the day. So we'll see.
Yeah. The Draven offering too for Spencer, if you're starting to feel like maybe you don't want to try to contest, you know, that's something that can hold the items that you've got right now. You've got another couple Forgotten champions, and we don't really see players going deep into the Forgotten tree right now, but you know, thinking about what your options might be at this point, if you're too contested, is interesting. And especially when you go up against the other player who's contesting you. Here's where you try to assert your dominance, Frodan. Here's where you say, all right, I am the Tristana player. Or,
is Milk contesting, though, or is he just trying to play best board into a fast 8?
Oh, you know, you're right. I didn't see the Aphelios on his board earlier, so you're probably right on that.
And I think that makes sense, you know. If the game completely showers him in Tristana's, like let's say it's a 3 Tristana shop, maybe Milk considers that, but he's the last pick on the carousel, so he doesn't get the good items, and it's widely believed that if Tristana has scuffed items, you're just not going to really do much besides maybe a 4th.
I think the Bloodthirster on the Tristana is what kind of led me down to thinking about it being a possibility, since that's a lot of times just the core item to have on the Tristana. But with holding the Aphelios, I think you're right. I think it is more just kind of using it to try to go through a smooth mid-game. Well, let's watch Spicy Appies, though, for a little bit.
Yep, Spicy Appies.
Early jabs.
A player that has known to be innovative of a lot of different compositions in terms of just like willing to play unusual stuff. He is not slamming his Runin's Hurricane, and makes me think that he wants to greed for a Bloodthirster, or also see the Radiant items.
Yeah, I think that's
a little bit tough. What's a little bit tough about this spot are 2 things. 1, he's streaking, and 2, he gets a Radiant item next round. And that kind of is at odds with each other, because he would much prefer to play tempo, but he can't really level because it would nuke his economy. And if he slams his Runin's Hurricane, he might just get like another one off of the the next round offering from the Radiant Armory. So this is a very unusual spot here for Spicy Appies, and it would really hurt if he slammed that Runins and lost anyways.
It's not
about to
looking
be
good.
the case.
Oh, the Jax lives through that second shot. I mean, that's redemption right there. That's redemption diff.
Yeah,
that item on the
Runins ends up being
Sejuani.
huge.
Yeah.
Runins ends up being huge too to get that extra DPS. You know, Runins isn't exactly like a 1-to-1 of doubling DPS, but a lot of times it feels like that.
It's a good amount of damage either way. What's he
Oh,
find? Oh my gosh! Wow.
What?
All right. Well, sometimes things just work out, don't they, Frodan? Finds that blessed bloodthirster, and that's exactly what you want. That is the item that you're looking for right now if you're Spicy Appies and you're planning on playing this Jax.
Yep, very much so. So it seems like everything is cleared for Spicy Appies to transition fully into the Jax carry. Has the Knights on the bench ready to go. A lot of times you want to play the 4 Knights with Jax and then flex into everything else. The only issue is if this comp does tend to struggle in AP heavy lobbies, but a quick scout around. Outside that one Vel'Koz player, I think 6 other players are playing AD tree, which makes this comp very strong. And it takes it from a comp that gets top 4 pretty consistently to a comp that can actually top 2 and maybe win if he's able to go to the top end, add Viego too.
Right. The 4 Knights, along with the sustain of the Jax, helps you just survive the damage coming in from all the other AD comps. A lot of times you'll have Ironclad as well, which is more armor, so that makes it even better. And you can see this Jax just able to take the damage from the Tristana almost enough to win the round. And, you know, fast forward to when that's a Jax 2, and you do have the 4 Knights and the Ironclad in there, and you can see how this board can go toe-to-toe with that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's always annoying when you feel like you're streaking and you lose right before the PvE round. But it's okay because he's still at 50 and he doesn't get that extra double dip of the eco. Spencer, on the other hand, when streaking at 54 HP, the lobby complexion is a lot closer than it usually is. At the end of stage 3, you often see a player that's kind of teetering the Radiant Blessing line and then ends up going down to to hit it. But it seems like everyone is reasonably strong at the moment, so we'll see how this 4-1 roll down goes for a lot of these players if they're choosing roll down. Spicy Appies might greet it, choosing to roll just a tiny bit so far. See if you can marginally improve with 4 Knights perhaps.
Kha'Zix 3 for Aegon. That's not a champion you see terribly often. We'll have to see what that board looks like a little bit later. For now, looking at I'm Jax board, but yeah, if you're playing the figure out who's going 8th game on fantasytft.com right now, I think this is a tough one to be playing that.
Yeah, entirely 1-star board outside of Lux. That being said, Vel'Koz 1 does a ton of work, and the A-bomb items are actually pretty solid. Just being able to be very tanky. So I don't think he's going to lose by that much, if he even loses at all. I think that his board is actually surprisingly pretty robust in terms of what it can do. And so this is the power of A-bomb, right? Even if he loses here, which looks like he just barely does, he's barely going to take damage. And I think that's part of what makes it frustrating, because Jack's okay, maybe I'm so close to stabilizing, but he doesn't have the gold for it. The Armory does offer a Jewel Gauntlet, but without mana items, right now Vel'Koz is just good for 1 cast, and then after that, you don't really expect it to do much.
Right. Besides reposition a little bit here, and you saw the danger against the Tristana board where she'll just jump right behind the Vel'Koz, then the Vel'Koz just doesn't hit it at all, So, at this point, you're low gold, not a lot of 2 stars. I wonder if this board went through a couple different revisions too, because a lot of times when you see a board that lacks 2 stars to this degree, it's because there's been kind of multiple pivots based on some forecasts that were hit that might not have been expected. But, alright, last minute swap. But we'll see if maybe with a little bit of upgrading here and there, you can stabilize. Because, yeah, if the Vel'Koz goes off, it's good damage. If it doesn't, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, and Jack does end up matching up against GV8, who has a stronger A-bomb in terms of the quality of 2 stars that he has. But he doesn't have, that backline damage, because it looks like GV8 saved his gold on 7, trying to see if he can go for a fast 8. And looks like he's going to be rewarded, because even regardless of the result, neither player is taking big damage from this. I think Jack actually prefers to slightly lose this so he can get the stimulus package, as we like to call it. But, GV8 is ramping up for a fast 8 and has a little bit of HP to give compared to I'm Jack. Speaking of the package, The one cost reroll, the assassin reroll, but not the ones that you were thinking about. Aegon's rolling at 5 for what Grog is 3. He's trying to chug jug.
What is this board? This is okay. Well, there's nearly the Grog is 3. He's very close. This is Aegon up to his old tricks again. He always seems to find some sort of like low cost reroll build that he just embraces. So we'll see how this one ends up. It's yeah, like you said, it's a 4 Dawnbringer, 2 Assassin, Kha'Zix reroll. It's almost like he's trying to rebuild the Kha'Zix of old, you know? He's got the RFC on the Kha'Zix. Interesting.
Interesting is the right word for it, because strong is not an adjective that I would use to describe Aegon's comp.
Not
creative,
really.
Innovative,
memorable,
cool, memorable,
yeah,
bad. Yeah, these are all adjectives that I would use for his comp, but you know, strong is not one.
Yeah, I don't know, like. Aegon's one of my favorite players to watch for like many sets now, and Aegon will always do Aegon things, and this is the most Aegon game I've seen in 5.5 yet.
I can't tell if he's just trolling or he actually believes in this composition. I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Maybe.
He does have the Infinity Edge, so you can pair it with the Soraka. A lot of times with Soraka, though, the problem is that you want to get multiple cast. So when you go for the crit, part of the problem is that there's a lot of like movement, like you were talking about. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen like Soraka 3 just completely whiff like the Hellions. It only hits like the back corner, it hits MF, but Tristana and Kennen have left the station eons ago.
Right.
And so you know, you don't really get the big Soraka mute and burst that you're looking for.
There's a level to 6. Puts the other brawler in the Sejuani. Getting close to the Sejuani 3 as well. There's another Soraka. So this is kind of the sweet spot for rolling for these 2 costs anyway, because you've got the 40% chance. So if it's gonna happen, this is a level it's gonna happen at. What is gonna happen exactly is still something we're kind of figure out. But whatever it is, it seems like this is the level for it to happen.
I know exactly what's happening. Aegon's gonna go 8th, and then probably load up his Raid Shadow Legends ad sponsorship afterwards. I don't know. Actually, maybe this Kha'Zix actually ended up doing a lot. I'm actually not giving enough credit to like what it does specifically against the Tristana players. This is actually a comp that can hunt down the Hellions reasonably well. You have Nidalee and you have Kha'Zix that jump to the back line. And if you're able to get some damage going, it seems like it's really powerful at sniping units. I mean, and that does seem like what the comp is good at.
I guess if it's anything, it's something that your opponent's not going to be expecting. That's for sure. You have the element of surprise is strong here.
It's true, and it is good that Aegon and Spencer are both re-rolling, right? Because they both synergize with each other. So ultimately, it could come down to team synergy, and Aegon just doing unusual stuff. And I know that I was kind of ragging on his comp a little bit, but I really do admire the fact that Aegon is fearless about.
Oh, I love it. Yeah,
it's so cool, and I love watching Aegon play specifically for that reason.
Oh yeah, I don't think any of us were exaggerating when you said he's one of the favorite players to watch, because he always comes up with stuff like this, and it's always great. But looking at Delicious Milk's board,
wow,
yeah, Tristana carry while he gets Revenants online, looks for something else to add in late.
He's trying to fast 9.
Yeah,
this is so interesting. He's not pivoting. I mean, he's not exactly stable right now. He looks like he's taking some pretty bad losses. He lost to Aegon. He just lost just now. But, like, he does have a lot of HP. And if he scouts the Stimulus package and finds an opportunity for a big golden fusion, then maybe he has an opportunity to start pivoting. But you can see that, like, the 4 Hellions have largely fallen off. This is Tristana 2. And now Milk might just be gearing up for the big 5-1 roll down. I don't think this is a fast 9. I think he has to roll down. Otherwise, he's probably going to go, like, 6th or 7th. But this is also a position where he can entirely whiff. I can't tell you how many times I've seen players set up this exact kind of board, whiff completely, hold pairs of everything, and then take a bot 4 finish. So this is a little scary here for Milk. We'll see if he's able to do it.
Definitely is. I think he was looking for the bow there for the Aphelios, because you'd want something like Ginsu's to go with these other items. You know, Runins isn't quite as popular with the Aphelios. Got some other options now, though. Finds a Jax. There's the Aphelios, too, though. So this feels like a bit of a commitment. You know, maybe if you find a Jax to put it in, but
yeah,
I think at this
point
you just go with
action.
Yeah.
Akjan is the key. Playing Revenants and Mystics, really
Yep.
standard, straight up stuff. Trying to find a way to stabilize. Still had 50 gold, actually, despite all this rolling. Just shows you how rich that Milk was accumulating all his resources. The Volibear does not end up catching the Tristana. Tristana jumps to the back line. Aphelios does get a cast on multiple units and able to wipe out the back line. So it's just Tristana and this Misfortune trying to go up against everybody. One more cast should be able to help at least eliminate the threats. And this is the power of Aphelios, specifically hunting down a lot of these boards that haven't hit its stride. Look at Spencer's bench, holding 7, 8 copies of champions, playing his opponents at the perfect time.
Yeah, I was really surprised that ended up being a lobby win because the Aphelios got Thresh hooked, the Tristana was behind it, and just, you know, if the cast goes off, so much dies that Aphelios is able to come back because of that sustain and just the sheer amount of damage it outputs.
Yeah.
Interesting items here.
Blue buff really good on Gwen. I just couldn't look on Mystics in general. Good on Lulu, good on Gwen. Totally fine to use it and can replace it in the late stage of the game, so he has some scalability there. I really like his inclusion of 2 Fiddlesticks. I think a lot of people would be scrambling to find another synergy, like, oh, I need the Mystic or I need something else. Sometimes just jamming more Revenants to just get stuff in the way can be really, really powerful to stall for Aphelios.
Right.
And I think that's something that I personally misunderstood when playing Aphelios comps. I was so worked up about synergies and not recognizing my game plan is just to stall as long as I can for Aphelios. Because look at this Diagro. This assassin from Becca, his teammate, wasn't able to draw onto the Aphelios. This is actually really clever from Milk. Because of the revive of the Revenant, it drops the aggro. Lee Sin walked back and forth, not able to get to Aphelios, and he goes for a fast wipe. The downside, of course, is that he does end up dealing some pretty significant damage to his teammate.
Yeah, it looks like positions 3 through 6 right now are pretty close across the board in the 30s, and then the mid-20s at 25 for Aegon. And Aegon, by the way, is on a win streak. So I want to see Aegon's comp do well because I've never quite seen anything like it in a 5.5 yet. I've heard people talk about it, but I've never really seen someone execute it the way he's doing it. So I'd love to see it do well. And so far, so good. Meanwhile, on board with Ramkev here, Jax, Ironclad, the Knights are going in. 3 Knights, 3 out of 4 so far. It's got the Galio on the bench, but just has not decided yet to put it in. Goes for Akshan instead, so a little bit more damage and down to 2 Knights, which, you know, when you see this type of build, depending on the lobby, you don't need to have 4 Knights in there. You can make some little adaptations like this.
Yeah, the Akshan might just mess with pathing. It doesn't have a lot of damage, doesn't have synergies, but nice Moonfall onto the Aphelios from Milk, and looks like Aphelios is going to bite the dust. He's playing this Viego to just steal. Viego is holding the Akshan items. And then Ramcap can slowly but surely transition into the definitive late game. GV8 is the one out in 8th place. Aegon wins again. I take back everything I said. Chug Jug is the best comp in the game. That was what I was saying from the very beginning. Aegon is a genius. And he is a god amongst men.
You know, it's the meme in the TFT community right now, man. Chug Jug is all the rage. Tonight, a Dawn we Jug or a Dawn we Chug. I can't remember what Sox was saying in his chat the other day. I give up.
I am interested in seeing what Aegon is going to do with that composition, because what I usually die. If I tried it one time, I say usually as if I do it very often, I die. And we'll see if he's able to take it even further beyond. Becca rolling for Nocturne 3, has 4 Revenants.
There it is.
Finds Nocturne 3, just needs Viego. Actually, no, she has the Assassin Spaz, so she's ready to go. Oh, she has 2 Assassin Spaz.
Yeah, 6 Assassin here. All right. 6 Assassin, 4 Revenant. What do you think about the Assassin Ivern instead of the Assassin Volibear?
I like it. I think Ivern's totally fine to use it because the Daisy goes into the back line and stalls with the Nocturne, so I think it's fine. And I do think that it's a good acknowledgement that she doesn't need a 3rd item onto Nocturne. Nocturne does plenty of damage just from the natural crits. I guess what she does need is ultimately a way to answer this Jax. This Jax is just so resilient, and with the Guardian Angel, just means Becca's not able to stabilize.
I mean, that Nocturne looked like a ping pong ball, man. He got like juggled the entire round. Didn't really get to attack at all, and that's one of the things about this Assassin build is you need some sort of item on the Nocturne to make sure it gets to keep attacking, whether that's a QSS or a more likely an RFC in a lot of cases, just to give him that distance. Because if you don't, you can see what happens, where it looks like a strong board, but not if your main damage source can't deal damage.
Yeah, and ultimately, you know, it comes down to positioning as well. Assassins are the biggest composition that puts a premium on positioning alongside Vel'Koz, because the impact of a properly positioned Diana is just so profound, and you amplify it by keeping Nocturne safer. And then you add into the mix that you have unusual holders of assassin spats like Ivern. And right now, Becca's just kind of walking into stuff. Nice fiddle cleanup on a bunch of these targets in the back line. But this Fiddlesticks is not able to get the job done. And looks like Becca's out. She's just barely surviving. Needs to go to 8 and start adding something else here, because this is clearly not clicking the way that she wants it to. And right now, Becca looks like a prime candidate to go bottom 4. Alongside Milk. Milk takes another loss. Wait. Milk made another Aphelios 2. Did he remake, or is he going for Aphelios 3? I'm not sure, but either way, we do have entire lobbies lopsided. At the very beginning of the game, Spencer was bottom of the HP ladder. Now he's at number 1 with the Rats. Becca, who is very healthy, is now taking 5 losses in a row alongside her teammate Milk. All of a sudden, the door has swung wide open for another team to potentially upset them and take major gains onto the point lead that White People Happy has.
Yeah, and Aegon and Spencer could use the points. Spencer's been doing okay. Aegon's been very up and down today, so a strong finish from both of them. If they can both top 2, the team needs it. So we'll see if they can pull it off. There's a Lulu too. So trying to find maybe like a Viego or something like that to put in over like a Kha'Zix or something. No such luck though.
Yeah, very, very difficult.
Yep.
I will also say that I feel the pain of a no itemized Diana. A lot of times in these kinds of situations, you want to itemize Diana, and it's so brutal. Every comp looks pretty strong at this point.
Yeah.
Becca ends up going for a left-sided slant. This is all in on the top left of the board. Going up against Aegon's Chug Jug at full power, trying to see if he can stop the Soraka from one-shotting the entire board. Volibear's Doombringer and the Diana Moonfall cast back-to-back. But her Nocturne is just not online yet and wakes up and immediately dies.
Yeah, I mean, that Nocturne is just kind of the story of it, right? Watching that Nocturne just not get to attack over and over again. So Becca does end up out in 7th. Spicy Appy's out in 6th as well. So GV8 and his teammate out in 8th and 6th respectively. That is a rough finish to the day for them. But now we get to watch the man, the myth, the legend, the 1-star, 3-cost Chug Jugging, rolling extraordinaire Aegon. Made it up to level 8. Got in 6 Dawnbringer as well with this.
He has 2 Dawnbringer emblems. What on earth am I watching?
This is insane.
This is so strange, but so cool. And you know what? I mean, we talked about how Aegon is so scared to go up in tournaments, especially when he does weird stuff like this. This is nowhere near the highest power level comp in the game, but it definitely looks like it's top 4 material at the very least. The Soraka is getting attacked by this Diana. Diana's still not casting, though, giving plenty of time for the other units to get online. And now Aegon may have found a way to turn the corner. He gets a win against the Ghost. He is top 3.
Top 3.
Graham, Kevin, I'm Jack is out. Monkey Dogs are eliminated from this lobby, and it's now just Spencer and Delicious Milk.
I swear that at the beginning of every set, Aegon like draws like a pentagram with a bunch of like crazy symbols on like the floor of his office or something like that, and summons like the Book of Forbidden TFT knowledge, and then just like spends nights studying it, you know? And then he comes to tournaments and things with stuff that nobody's ever thought of, or else they thought of it and they thought it was bad, and he beats people with it. Aegon plays like no one else in TFT, and I love it.
I mean, it's a board that ends up having pretty decent matchups as well. Going up against Delicious Milk, who did survive this far. And it is trying to see if it can protect the Aphelios. Whether or not that Aphelios is able to get multiple casts off will make the difference maker. Looks like Kha'Zix is going to go down momentarily. Soraka being taken down by the Sovereign Domination. This might be big damage coming in. Depending on if the Soraka ends up getting one more cast off. It looks like Aegon's going to take some big damage, but he's not out just yet. The Chug Jug survives. Can the man of the people, Aegon, do this? Spencer is also holding strong. Maybe he can be the one who delivers the final blow. And a second from Aegon is a first for Team Aegon GG in this lobby.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a situation where, like, if Spencer can maybe take out Milk, and then, like, Aegon beats whatever Ghost he plays against, you know, then they take top 2, which, again, would be an amazing finish for them after being pretty up and down points-wise today. So we'll see.
Tough spot here for Spencer in particular. Does he play his strongest board, or does he let himself play a slightly weaker board to try to let Aegon potentially beat him and survive the top 2? He's at 21 HP, which is not 100% safety guaranteed, but pretty close to it.
Yeah.
And I think with that slam, the Shojin says, I'm just going to commit to best board. He could have held it till he saw his opponent, and he's going up against Aegon. Oh, he's going up against Delicious Milk? It's a face-off against both of them. Yeah. It's the fact that it's his Ghost.
Yep.
So he's trying to see if he can pay attention to Milk. And if he can eliminate Milk, maybe his job is done. He's not even going to watch his own fight.
Nope. Just doesn't want to see what is happening to his teammate, I think. Oof. Aegon out, yeah, and Milk lives. Milk on a win streak even. So now Delicious Milk still threatening a little bit to try to take first in the lobby. Did beat the Ghost. But Aegon out in third. Regardless, still a good result for Aegon.gg to have 2 players in the top 2.
Absolutely. And Delicious Milk looking to cap his day with another strong performance. First, third, second for his first 3 games. We're going for 8 Hellions. I don't know how good this is because I've never got to 8 Hellions myself. I just usually stop at 6 at best. And he's going to go ahead and last minute swap in with so many 3-stars. Let's see if this is going to be the final fight that he's looking for.
I mean, that Thresh does so much damage when it hits, too, that, like, I think it's absolutely worth. Here comes Daisy, though. There's a knock-up on the Thresh. The Tristana is in the back lines, trying to do some damage to the Cephalios. So the Aphelios goes down. That's huge. I think Spencer's done it. Yep. So, Aegon.gg ends up taking first place in the lobby via the teammate Spencer. Delicious Milk still with a really great finish at second. Delicious Milk having one of the best days we've seen so far at first, third, second. But it is Aegon.gg that wins our final lobby of the day that we see on stream.
Very much so, and a really cool strategy that kind of formulated. I know I gave a lot of grief to the Chug Jug, but I take it all back. It's a composition that absolutely, if the conditions line up for it, might be something that if you scrap together everything could get you a 3rd place. So it seems like Aegon did his job. That's his role. Honestly, because like it seems like the dynamic of these lobbies is that Spencer is going to be playing the best comp in the game of Tristana reroll. And then it's Aegon to support him with another reroll composition that naturally increases the odds that Spencer hits.
That is it.
And I think that's it's a really scary duo because they're capable, as we have seen multiple times today, of taking multiple top 4 finishes in tandem. And that has resulted in them landing in 5th place. Not the top finish compared to other teams, but very much within striking distance to potentially make the finals.
Hey, I mean, after all the teams tomorrow play, you figure that's middle of the pack at least, so you're well-positioned to go into week 3, and if you have a good week 3, you're well-positioned to theoretically go on to the final week. So, you know, I think it's not, you know, the greatest result at the end of the day, but you're not going to be disappointed with something like this. But I think what you just said a moment ago is really hitting the nail on the head, where, like, Aegon finds these, like, interesting wild builds specifically to thin out the pool and allow his teammate to find those Tristanas quicker. Meanwhile, over in Lobby A, Bertosaurus grabs another first place, able to get first place in his first and 4th games today. Raditz still up there as well. A really good day for Raditz. 2 firsts, in fact, slightly better than Milk even, I would say. 2 firsts, a second, and a third. So some pretty insane performances from some of our players in the tournament today.
Yep, today Ray looks like it was Ray's day here of the beginning of week 2 of the Giant Slayer series. Well done to him. Shout out to, of course, like Solus for putting on another top 2 performance, and Kurum, you know, putting on some very consistent performances. I think whenever we switched over to Kurum's POV, it looked like he was in tough spots, and scrapping together those top 4s are huge for his chances, especially with Solus also taking a top 2. So overall, really well done, and you know, we are going 8th with Bertosaurus leading the way, able to get that 3rd place currently. And honestly, like, they're racking up the pool play earnings. Bird and HJW have won enough lobbies where it's like, hey, actually the money is starting to roll in a little bit.
Well, I mean, HJW with 2 firsts on the first week, Bertosaurus with 2 firsts on the second week. So yeah, they are definitely cashing in on that one for sure. So looking at our final standings overall for day 1 of week 2, Wide People happy in the lead still with 96 points. Nobody quite breaking the 100 threshold yet. We'll see if Megafurts can do that tomorrow. But some tough point scores to beat if you're one of those teams that didn't play today, looking at what you need to accomplish to break into the top 4.
Yeah. Yeah, the average placement for a lobby is both players averaging a 4.5, which is 10 points. So over 4 lobbies, you want to at least have 10 points or better to have like an average result.
Right.
So if that's the case, if Megafurts has an average day of 10 points per lobby, they're going to end at 94, which means that Why People Happy puts himself in a pretty decent chance to be number 1. But if you look at beyond Megafurts, that means the other teams have to have a very strong overperforming day, like 8875 featuring Soju and Pressman and Ramblin' Robin at 44. Really strong teams coming in on day number 2 of this week, so I'm looking forward to it. But, you know, a really good day of games. And I love the fact that 2nd to 5th is so close in points. 4 points is all that really separates 2nd to 5th place right now.
We saw a whole bunch of players tied in like the mid 40s around earlier coming in today after week 1, and I think we're gonna have a very close finish to week 2 as well after tomorrow's games, and that means we're just gonna have a very close finish in general. So I think one of the great things about this tournament is that the teams, a lot of the teams seem very evenly matched in terms of skill and results across the board. So I think it's gonna be a very tight race to get into that final lobby if we look way ahead into week 4. But we're going to look ahead a little bit shorter than then as we take a break now, and then we come back with an interview with our winners. So don't go anywhere. Giant Slayer series closes out the day when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Frodan and I here to close out the day for the Giant Slayer series, but we're not alone. That's right. We have Delicious Milk with us, one half of Why People Happy. 96 points on the day, overall leaders. Spectacular results for you today. What's your secret? What's the trick? What's the secret sauce that Delicious Milk uses to?
Like I average. I don't even see my scores lately, but I posted on Twitter. But I went 888. 777.
Oh yeah.
8. And then like I'm pretty sure I just low rolled out of my mind, and I used literally all my luck here because I think I got all gold openers today. And like I don't think I've ever gotten 4 gold openers in my life. I'm talking like 2 items, 12 gold, every game. So it's like
you saved it up like a spirit bomb or something, you know?
Yeah, like openers in this game
thing.
aren't like that well balanced, I would say. So it's like all my openers is just like literally free top 4. Like Mortdog basically played the game for me. And I played pretty bad.
I've heard he's a pretty good player.
You can't say he doesn't care if he helps even you get the top 4, right?
No, he's wasting my luck here instead of regionals.
I see.
You don't think you can build more up by then?
The exact opposite. You already know it's gonna be one of those 3-item 5 gold openers.
Okay. So
you
would rather.
You gotta bitch about something.
Yeah, I guess so. So you'd rather go 8-8 in this tournament so you can go 1-1-1 in regionals, right? You don't care about winning for Becca? Okay.
I mean, we can win both, but preferably regionals.
Well, how long does it take to like build that like luck back up again? What's the cooldown on it?
I basically need a low roll somewhere again, like go 8-8-8, 7-7-8. I don't think I've ever even done that before. That's the first time in my life I've ever gone 8-8-8, 7-7-7-8.
What does that do to your mentality?
Oh, I was laughing. I was like laughing the entire time. Because like after a certain point, it's like it's kind of funny, you know?
Yeah, it's like it gets so bad, all you can do is just laugh.
Yeah.
As the world crumbles around you. Yeah.
Like on the 6,
you lost
7 for 8.
400 LP. Oh my god.
Yeah, I went from 1.1 to 700. It was like in one. It was like.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
how do you feel about challenger players under 1,000 LP?
Oh. I mean, I don't really consider them TFT players.
Okay.
Fair enough. Does it feel good that week 1, Becca hard carry you, and then week 2 is?
Oh, dude, I don't even understand how I got carried so hard. Like that lobby also was like the sweatiest lobby ever. I was expecting to go like, I don't know, 3rd, but like in the lobby overall. But like, yeah, somehow Becca just hard carries me and just ends up winning the lobby.
Fair enough.
She's actually pretty good at A-bomb, like A-bomb AP. But today she must have played AD, which is actually kind of surprising because our plan was for me to go AD every game and her to go AP. And I think she played AD all 4 games, and I played like AP twice. And our plan was like the exact opposite. Because I started like BF sword. I was like my plan was to start like BF sword glove bow and go like the full AD tree flex, and her go to like belt tier-ish and just go the full AP flex. But somehow like I started BF and I still went A-bomb, and she started like her items and went AD.
So yeah, she did go AD all 4 games. It's true.
Yeah, so we literally just like we had a plan and we did the exact opposite.
You got to be ready to adapt, right?
You adapted? Is that what happened? Wait,
sounds like an adaptation.
No. I didn't adapt. Mortdog forced me to play comp.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. I see. All right.
This church that you go to where you blame Mortdog for making you do stuff, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, well, it's okay. This is our first service,
There you go. Yeah. Confess.
Milk, is there anything higher stakes on the line? I know like Kyun and Soju have this like thing going on, or
yeah. We don't even play them. We have the hardest bracket. I don't know if you've seen our bracket, but we play against all the sweats. Like, do you see our week 1 lobby? Everyone's fucking 1K plus. Second week lobby is actually also kind of sweaty because I know everyone. I guess Aegon like kind of quit though, so like Aegon's a little bit less sweaty these days. But like, we never get to face the bots. Like we don't get to see Soju or Kyun or Kurum or
next week.
No, we don't.
Yeah, don't you get to next week?
Oh, we see Kurum.
Oh, really?
Oh, we never see Soju or Kyun though.
Oh, okay.
Because there's 16 teams and you only see 9 of them. So basically, we've got the entire like we got like the new battle Rankev or like Robin.
I mean,
Well,
You've got the most points in the tournament. What more do you want?
He wants to beat the bots. That's what he wants.
Okay. I feel like I high rolled so much today. Even like Soju was playing my account. He could have done better.
Oh, there
No,
you
like
go.
seriously.
Wow.
No, like literally anyone could have played on. Like if the way like my games were like I didn't even play TFT today. Okay, Mortdog literally played for me. I high rolled too much.
Oh well, account sharing is a bannable offense, Bill. So
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't share your account with Mortdog. Yeah.
Oh, besides that one time, I DC today. I DC for 3 rounds, but I was playing.
Oh, I heard about that. Game 1.
I won. I don't even understand.
You still won that, yeah.
That's the game I win.
Where are you playing then?
I think maybe that was a low roll, and that's why I high rolled. So actually, maybe I'm like on even EV right now. Maybe we're chilling.
There you go.
Huh, maybe we're even.
Well, that's great. I like to end on a positive. So let's continue that by maybe. What shoutouts do you have? Any final words before we end the interview here?
Shout out to Mortdog for finally nerfing Hellions on the B patch on Wednesday. Yeah.
Stand-up guy.
Yeah.
Anything else? Shout out to your teammate maybe or something? Or
Oh, shout out to my teammate for carrying me last week.
there you go. All right.
Yes.
Well, thanks for stopping by, Delicious Milk. Always a pleasure. Congrats on the point leader, being the point leader along with Becca in the tournament. And I've got a feeling we'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Hopefully for regionals. All right. Thanks.
There you go. Take care. All right. There you go, folks. The man, the myth, the legend, Delicious Milk himself here after their victorious day at Giant Slayer Series. Week 2, day 1, Frodan. What else is there to say?
What not really much. I think Milk said it best, which might be the first time I think I've ever said that, which is shout out to Mortdog. That's it. End of the statement. There was no other context needed.
Yep. Hey, Trasan's getting a little bit of nerf on Wednesday. We're all good. We're all good. Yep. Well, that was a day of TFT. I want to get your final thoughts on the day. It was a roller coaster from start to finish, wasn't it? What stood out to you?
I mean, it was just some really interesting small interactions that I learned. I feel like in these competitions, you learn so much, and you also have a lot of fun. And I feel like the players were doing both, right? They were kind of working together. You saw like this moment where like Becca and Milk's teamwork, like to try to minimize damage, was really cool. Or you see like certain players kind of like laughing with their teammate in call and like talking about stuff and strategizing different kind of different kind of lines that they can take. Really, really interesting stuff. And I love the team part of Teamfight tactics, DoA, and I would love to see this fleshed out more. So it was really great to watch today.
Yeah, I agree. I think my favorite moment of the day was definitely seeing Aegon go for that kind of wild 1-star reroll chug jug build just to help, frankly, enable his teammate Spencer to pick up all the 2 costs a little bit quicker. Worked wonderfully. I wonder if we're going to see it again. I'm kind of surprised it took 3rd, but it shows you that there is some strength in that type of comp if you're able to position well and find some items and get a couple Dawnbringer spats. Who knows? Anything's possible, right? But more than that, I want to shout out Ball Street for being a great partner of ours here at Giant Slayer Series. Again, go check out Fantasy TFT to play a great Teamfight Tactics stock market style game. A lot of fun. You can win some gift cards, win some little legend eggs. Lots of fun to be had there. Shout out to Giant Slayer and the staff over at Wisdom for putting the tournament on, Riot for supporting the tournament and making the game, and you, the viewers at home, for making esports really happen. Without the fans watching and playing the game, none of this would exist. So thank you. So until tomorrow, because remember, tomorrow 4 p.m. I guess I'm done. My voice is like finished for the day, so I better end this one quickly. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific time, here on the same channel, we got another 4 games of Teamfight Tactics on Giant Slayer Series. So definitely come and watch that then. It's going to be great. Until then, stay safe, play some TFT, and we'll see you next time.